Hey, welcome back everyone to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 742, Space and Technology. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter as well, and also pay attention to our community tab as we share things in the near future. If you want to get on the panel, there'll be a link dropped later on in the stream, and we'll get into it. Let me jump into the first items on the docket. Pull the docket up real quick. All right, first item on the docket. This is from Africa News Space. Growing the African space ecosystem from the ground up, a case study of Egypt. Sorry, it's actually space in Africa. Africa lacks the skilled human resources that would enable it to take advantage of several technological advancements in the space industry. The continent's ability to efficiently leverage space technology to provide better healthcare, primarily in the marginalized groups, fight and contain disease outbreaks, protect its environment and natural resources, and develop new solutions depends on its population, scientific knowledge, and skills. This article will analyze how the Egyptian government addresses the technology gap through capacity development initiatives, context-specific awareness, and information campaigns and curricular reforms. How does space play into Egypt's national development efforts? Like several African countries, Egypt has a rich astronomical heritage lodged within its culture, with traces of modern space activities in the 1950s. However, it would take some 20 years for the small strides to culminate in the creation of pioneering of Egyptian institution in the field of the satellite, remote sensing, and space sciences. The National Authority for Remote Sensing and Space Sciences, NARIS, in 1994. The then principal space institution was created under the auspices of the Egyptian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research and is an offshoot of the Remote Sensing Center established in 1972. In May 1998, the Egyptian Space Council was created to develop a roadmap for space activities in the country. This roadmap led to formulating the Egyptian National Space Program and making policy recommendations to the government. The government approved the recommendations after releasing the potential contributions of space to national development. The Egyptian Space Agency, EGSA, was established in 2018 with a mandate emphasizing, quote, the need to develop space capabilities and manufacture satellite technologies in Egypt. To achieve this, the government pledged an annual operating budget for the agency, including additional funding for space projects, ergo satellite development, hoping to generate at least 10% of its national income from the space sector by 2025. The Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research, Khalid Abdel Ghaffar, affirmed on more than one occasion the importance of the agency's role in serving the space science field, localizing the bioindustry, building generations of technological progress, and its role in achieving Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. So you can see right here in this table image, what they're saying is from 2018 to 2022 that they would invest $200 million over that span of time on the space program itself. So it looks like they went through 1, 2, 3, and 4 phases. Very interesting. Egypt launched its first Earth observation satellite, EgyptSat-1, in April 2007, and for the first time it included a technology transfer clause in the satellite deal rather than just buying it. Besides building the satellites and its accompanying grounding station, Zoom State Design Office was also contracted to train a team of 64 Egyptian engineers in several areas, including theoretical training, satellite and subsystem design, assembly, software development, integration, and testing. Furthermore, the training concentrated on post-development exercises, including launch, integration with the launch vehicle, satellite commissioning, and complete satellite operationalization. I don't know why they wrote that. I think that's a translation. Alongside Angosat 1 project, the EgyptSat-1 is renowned for having trained the most engineers in a single satellite project in Africa. Other African countries trained from 12 to 24 in similar satellite projects. According to NARS, the unusual trainees included in the project were to compensate for the possible departure of some of the trained engineers and maintain the team's technical integrity and the continuity of their space program. For example, a collaborative effort led by Egypt Space Agency, EXA, the Academy for Scientific Research and Technology, and the Supreme Council on Universities set to launch a program for manufacturing small satellites in universities across the country. The program is one of the pillars contained in the National Strategy for Science, Technology, and Innovation, NSSTI 2030, which was released by Egypt's Ministry for Higher Education and Scientific Research in 2019 to improve the country's competitiveness in science research and the development of indigenous technologies. The timeline for the implementation of the program is 10 years, 2020 to 2030, sorry, which was divided into short-term, 1-3 years, medium-term, 4 to 6 years, and long-term, 7 to 10 years. Furthermore, to guide the implementation of the program, it was broadly categorized into 3 targets. 1, capacity building. 2, development of space missions. And 3, upgrading the Egyptian industry facilities to support the growth of the commercial space industry. Specifically, capacity building for the university, college, and elementary level students includes satellite project for university students. In the December 2020, EXA board announced an EGP 4 million collaborative project with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, to develop educational satellites. According to the CEO of EXA, the project would involve developing 35 educational CubeSat to train more space scientists in Egypt. These satellites are still in the conceptual stages, with the project review expected to take place later this year. The Egyptian Space Agency estimates a development timeframe of 3 years. That's actually pretty quick. Satellite projects for high school students. The production of the 3 artificial moon units, CanSat, for high school students, through which students can learn about satellite systems and their tasks and how to launch, operate, and get data from them. According to the erstwhile CEO of EXA, Dr. Mohammed Al-Kouaisi, each moon unit is a simulator of an actual satellite integrated into the size and shape of a gas can. and developed using simple components to ensure that students can easily conceptualize and understand the functions and critical subsystems in the satellite, such as energy systems, remote sensing cameras, and communication systems, among others. Oh, let me see. I think somebody's trying to get in there. I didn't realize it. Hey, what's going on, Complex?
Yo, what up, Mark?
Oh, I'm chilling, man. Just covering this real quick. Let me just finish this up real quick.
Yeah, you got it.
Conforming to the project plan, the CanSat will be dropped from a few kilometers above sea by a balloon or a small plane where it can descend slowly. The students will be able to communicate with the moon as it descends by sending commands to it and receiving data from it wirelessly from a ground station to mimic what is done with the actual satellite. In addition, the NSSTI underscored the importance of developing human and scientific capabilities in the space industry, localizing space technology in Egyptian universities, and raising students' awareness of and interest in disciplines in scientific programs in satellite technology and space research. To this end, EGSA organizes summer training programs for students to improve their knowledge about satellite development. Capacity building in astronomy and space science is the third piece. The National Research Institute of Astronomy and Geophysics, together with the Office of International Astronomical Union, host the Astronomy Education Center for Egypt and the other Arabic-speaking countries in a plan to localize astronomy education and development in the early stages of education before university level. So we talked about this before many times in the past, that you would have to start cultivating people through the K through 12 area. At least in the West, that's what we call K through 12. For them, they just call it, elementary. In addition, across Egypt, North Africa, and the Arab region, NRIAG is considered a beacon of astronomy education, awareness, and outreach, helping to train personnel on an academic level through its different facilities of expert staff and resources. Specifically, OAE Egypt will be supporting astronomy education through five thematic approaches. One is curriculum development, cooperation with the Ministry of Education, and searching together with experts on ways of cooperation to contribute to the development curriculum. Two, it's organizing training courses to qualify teachers and employ various astronomical events and phenomena, practically teaching astronomy. And three, production educational materials, writing Arabic booklets and books to simplify the teaching of astronomy and designing models to explain modern astronomical topics in a simplified manner. Four, translating educational materials. Language is considered a barrier that prevents many teachers and students from deepening their knowledge of astronomy and making it available to them. Five, strengthening the center's role at the regional level in the Arabic-speaking countries through the regular interaction of a OAE Egypt with the National Astronomy Education Coordinator teams. Several other initiatives and programs organized by the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, EGSA, and NRIAG, in a collaboration with other ministries, departments, or foreign entities, are being designed to bridge the technology gap with the country and ensure that they build necessary human capital needed for future space projects. So they just gave you the blueprint in maybe 5 or 10 minutes of how to build your space program for your community. May not work for everybody, but I do see it as a good template. I don't know what you think about this complex.
I think in past live streams we also talked about things like scaled down rocketry, for example, right? These are also things that are within reach, right? Go to a local hobby shop. You can buy rocket kits, stuff like that. So I think this right here, in terms of small scale satellite development, right? At the elementary age or stages, as they call it, pairs well with understanding rocketry, right? Like these are all things that are all within reach. We think that, um, starting kids young with regards to space exploration and stuff is, you got to send them to a NASA camp or something, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not necessarily. I think that these things are like well within reach, and it really just becomes a matter of like, well, do we look at space-based technology, stuff like that, as something that we should, as a viable avenue with regards to STEM? Let's just say, for example, right? That really just becomes incumbent upon us. But I think this stuff is all within reach. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's something that can be easily replicated
Hmm.
without a whole lot of money being involved in it, because you're not talking about building an actual SpaceX rocket. You're just talking about the theoretical design of it, and then the application execution later.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next article. All right, this is from the Guardian, or sorry, the Mail and Guardian. South African space company Hypernova takes on the universe. On the 16th of July 1969, the Apollo 11 spacecraft set off on a mission to land the first humans on the moon. Exactly 49 years later, Hypernova Space Technologies, founded by South Africans in a rather serendipitous occurrence, registered as a space hardware company in Cape Town to develop systems that operate in very low Earth orbits, VELO. On Tuesday, and on board a satellite from Bulgarian company Endurosat, Hypernova launched its first hardware into space, known as a propulsion system, that was assembled in South Africa by South Africans to compete with international space companies in making this intricate technology. In general terms, propulsion systems are used to keep a satellite in orbit, and without the technology, a satellite could decay and burn in the Earth's atmosphere. A propulsion system helps keep the satellite alive for longer. In the case of Hypernova's hardware, it is used to maneuver the satellite when it is in orbit, helping to avoid debris in space, as explained by company chief executive Gareth Halstead. So what it looks like here is that Hypernova is South Africa's version of SpaceX, and we're starting to see a lot more growth on the continent now than what we did maybe 5 or 6 years ago when we first started covering this stuff. So there's a lot of rapid development happening that we kind of forecast that was going to happen at some point. But
Yeah. Oh, dude, remember that? Remember the one we did where there was a developer that was using Steam to propulse. They were using Steam or a short bursts of steam as a propulsion mechanism.
steampunk
Yeah,
rocket.
that's the one. Yeah.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah, and I think that see, they have fertile ground. They don't have to go through a lot of red tape, and they don't have to uh, you know things have already been done before them, and so they can see where other people or other entities have failed, and they can
Yeah.
then capitalize off of where everybody else failed and say, okay, we know not to go down that path.
I mean, it's the
So it
one that
works out.
it's that one. I'm sorry, man. My bad. It cut out
Okay.
there a little bit. It's kind of like that reoccurring theme where we've kind of always told people that, well, in Africa they can just jump right to it,
Right.
right? They can just jump right to it, man. They don't have to do all the 3IR stuff. They don't have to do that. They can look at what's being done now, what's being developed, look at other startups, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
bounce their ideas off of that and say, well, what if
Mm-hmm.
we did this? And then they can just get right to it.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier. So you don't always have to be the first one to do something in an industry that's already existing. You don't have to say like, oh, well, why build a, why reinvent the wheel when Goodyear has already made the tire? In this instance, you probably want somebody else to make the wheel so you can make a tire because you don't want to be, following down the same path of failed projects when, you already have the case studies to follow. You already have the case studies to work with. So, all right, this one is from clevelandscene.com. Cleveland City Council approves $54 million in new bike infrastructure. The projects, which included the long-delayed Superior Midway, promises 4.3 miles of protected bike lanes.
Wait, how many miles?
4.3.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, it's good that the artists, the developers, captured Black people inside the portrait. Inside the portrait, they try to articulate that where the bike lanes are going to be. Usually, what happens in these development photos, the developers color out Black people from it.
Yeah,
that's kind of what caught my eye when it first came into my feed. The Superior Midway, the long-delayed, seemingly elusive 4.3 miles of protected bike lanes to link Public Square in Midtown, was approved by Cleveland City Council yesterday in its first session of the year. Council simultaneously approved the Lorraine Avenue resurfacing, a 1.8-mile makeover of a growing Ohio City Transit connector from West 20th to West 65th. The projects are collectively estimated to cost $54 million. With heavy reliance on federal dollars, 3/4 of the Midway's cost to greenlight them into existence. Now codified on city law books, the project's destined to break ground in 2025 following a 2-year design process. Our foundational transit blankets to stylize Cleveland a city friendlier pedestrians. I don't know who wrote this. The city's emergency ordinances authorized James DeRosa, its director of capital projects, to receive state or federal funding to cap off a remaining $10 to $15 million needed for the Lorraine project. Councilman Kerry McCormick's Ward 3 includes roughly 3 miles of the planned lanes. He said that council affirmation of positions a shovel-ready pair of transportation plans as closer to ready to go for, in his words, getting it paid for. Anyway, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but the point in the matter here is that bike lane infrastructure is coming on board, whether people like it or not. It's just a part of the process. We talk about microtransportation a lot, but you really can't talk about it once you talk about the infrastructure.
Right.
Okay.
Right. You're not going to have, and it's crazy, dude. Just even today, we've been having rains off and on and stuff. And I was going out. I had to go out to go and drop my truck off at the shop and then pick it up. When I went out, I saw a 12-year-old girl on a brand new e-bike, obviously got it for Christmas, right? When I went back out to go and pick the truck up from the shop, man, I saw 2 other people on e-bikes. Okay. This stuff is not going anywhere. Okay. So that means that infrastructure needs to be put in place to accommodate it, because it's going to become more prevalent and more commonplace. I can't really see gas prices coming down, in any considerable amount for the time being, as long as we have, as long as we have engagement over in the Ukraine. I can't see car prices coming down, even though there's a glut of cars on lots and dealers, stuff like that. I can't see prices coming down. And I also can't see people, unless it's out of absolute need, convincing themselves to go and buy brand new cars at the prices that they're at, interest rates and all this kind of stuff. It makes a lot more sense for somebody to buy a smaller transportation option and then keep the pre-existing vehicle that they do have, right? And you use the smaller option for your menial stuff. Okay. And as I start to see more and more and more people do this, yeah, you're going to need those lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this one's from TechCrunch. Scooters in Paris are at a crossroads, and the direction things go. Yeah, this is all poorly written. In the direction things, it should say could go. It's actually,
Yeah, TechCrunch
right.
has been, dude. I don't know what's been going on with them.
Yeah, I think what's happening here is that someone's trying to use AI to write articles now. So,
Dude, you know what? That we'll have to do a whole Chat GPT live stream.
yeah,
Talk about all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah. In the future of micromobility everywhere. Let me just try to zoom in on this real quick. What is going on? Sorry, what is going to happen to the 15,000 colorful electric scooters that currently spill across the streets in Paris? On March 23rd, their fate could drastically change as the French capital weighs up whether or not to renew the licenses for 3 scooter companies currently operating in the city. And this isn't just going to impact Dot, Tier, and Uber affiliated Lime, the 3 companies that have held those licenses since 2020. These decisions will set a precedent for the many cities around the world that could have also let scooters onto the streets. If things don't go their way, a negative decision in Paris could have a chilling effect on micromobility startups globally. Paris has been a pacemaker in the electric scooter race. As one of the first cities to approve their use in the open city environment, city residents and visitors took to them as a convenient way to navigate around halting traffic and congested public transport. Scooters in Paris provided a counterpoint to the claims that they were overhyped, overcapitalized by unimaginative VCs in a flash in the pan. Quote, this is important for everyone in terms of, sorry about that. Quote, this is important for everyone in terms of business size. Paris is very important. It's the biggest city in the world from a business point of view. Dot's director of marketing and communications, Matthew Forer, told me. And even from a symbolic point of view, Paris is important. Things started to look shaky starting in September 2020 when the city's deputy mayors, David Belliard and Emmanuel Gregory, I think that's how you pronounce it, requested a meeting with the 3 mobility operators. They said that Dot, Lime, and Tier weren't doing enough when it came to safety and urban clutter. But this wasn't the first time the city of Paris had said it wasn't satisfied with these services. From the word go, there was no proper regulation in place. And initially, that led to a dozen different scooter startups rolling out their fleets in Paris. Bird, Bolt by Eurasian Bolt, Cirque, Dot, Hive, Jump, Live, Tier, Void, UFO, and Win. Right? That eventually led to the tender process of a new set of rules, a maximum speed limit of 20 kilometers per hour and some dedicated parking spaces. Then in 2021, tragedy struck when a pedestrian was killed in a scooter accident that led to more restrictions on scooter services. Scooter companies agreed to implement hundreds of slow zones with a 10-kilometer speed restriction in a specific areas, pedestrian streets, public squares, and car-free areas. At one point, the city of Paris even considered turning the entire city into a slow zone, but ditched the plan. There's also the climate change question and whether that's really enough of a seller point. Scooter promoters like to say that they are a green option for getting around, but as TechCrunch's Rebecca Bellin has pointed out, scooters aren't necessarily helping when it comes to environmental goals in certain urban areas, such as the case in Paris. An extremely dense city with an efficient subway network and a subsidized bike sharing service with more than 400,000 subscribers, when people living in Paris need to go from A to B, they have a ton of options. Some people riding on electric scooters would have used their moped or requested an Uber, but many use scooters instead of the metro, which is arguably a greener mode of transportation compared to electric scooters. But see, my thing here is this: no one had any problems with skateboards or dirt bikes and stuff like that being used in streets, but it's only when it comes to electric scooters. There's something about e-scooters that they just have a problem with, because no one, people die from vehicle accidents every day. No one's trying to take cars off the road though.
I think, man, in my experience with all of this stuff,
Put some volume on your mic, please.
oh wait, how about now?
All right,
You
cool.
good now?
Yeah, cool.
Okay. In my experience, man, I think cities have they have an issue, or let's say there's not an issue. There's a slight issue with the level of autonomy, right? That e-scooters gives you. It's literally like transportation. That's just right there. Okay, and so that means a lot of movement can happen, and it's a lot of movement that cities, when they were being designed and built and expanded and developed, they didn't account for like movement like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? See,
Mm-hmm.
so now with people are just like, yo, I need to get somewhere real quick, and it's like, okay, they can either use their own car, they can walk, they have all the options, right? There were all the traditional options, Uber, all that stuff, but now there's also a little scooter, so it's like, oh wait, you know what, I'm tripping, let me just go walk right outside, boom, right, and then you're out.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens also is that there's other business entities that basically compete, and they'll lobby the city and say, hey, well, our business is being affected, why is there so many scooters out there?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think there's like a few aspects to it. uh One of them mainly though being competition or the competition that they pose to, say, like your Ubers and your Lyfts, your rideshare, with the cars and stuff like that. I think that's really what one of the main issues is.
Yeah. Yeah. In October 2022, Dot, Lime, and Tier registered more than 2 million rides out of the 400,000 users spread across the three services in Paris. 85% of them live in the city. Operated each have a hard cap at 5,000 scooters, meaning there are roughly 15,000 scooters on the streets of Paris. According to Fluxio, there are close to 300,000 shared scooters in 33 European cities. That's a lot of profit. But each scooter is used quite extensively in Paris, several times per day. Here's a chart of the total number of scooters rides per month. So from 2020, you can see how low it is, probably because of the pandemic, as
Pandemic,
people on
yeah.
lockdown. And then as the restrictions start to let up, you start to see in 2021, you start to see more and more rides start to increase, especially around September 2021. You start to see it go past 2 million.
Damn.
And then it just takes a small dip around January of 2022. But after that, it just keeps going back up all the way up into about that June, July,
Mhm.
Close to 25, or sorry, 2,500,000 rides, 2.5.
Now, those other dips, right?
Mhm.
Are those also like, say, like around January, or those in the winter months?
Yeah. So it's like that
That one,
November, December, January, same thing.
right? And then the one before, and then you see that other dip. When is that?
This one is January, February.
And then the other dip right there, you see it right there? Yeah, that one.
That's June, July.
Ooh, okay, okay, interesting. But typically, the seasonality period is what's going to explain the dips.
Hmm.
Like, just studies here in the U.S., right? The case studies here. The seasonality period is where the means temperature, if it drops below 70 degrees, that's when you're going to see a dip, and typically it's going to be in that December, January, right? That whole little, that 3 month little gap right there, and then as soon as it ticks up 70 degrees and above on average, boom, you see the ridership go up.
Yeah. All right, let me get back to this real quick. The promise of metrics like these has led to a massive valuations and funding rounds. According to Crunchbase, to date, Lime, one of the companies that popularized the concept of free floating scooters, raised $1.5 billion. Dot managed to secure $210 million, while Tier grabbed nearly $650 million. To be sure, it's been mostly quiet on the funding front for these companies for much of the last year. Partly, this is because of the most publicly visible of these companies, Bird, which pointedly is not in Paris, but it is traded on the NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange, has totally run out of charge.
Ha ha.
With its market cap now at less than $86 million, compared to more than $2 billion when it went public in March of 2021. Now, I remember a certain Black Brain Trust member working for Bird, and it had a market evaluation of $2 billion at the time.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and raise my hand on that one, and I'll tell you the reason why it dropped so much, man. They got Mike. If I stood on your shoulders, the stack of lawsuits that Bird's been slapped with would still be taller than us.
I can imagine. Turning back to Paris, following the September 2022 meeting, the three active scooter companies, Lime, Dot, and Tier, got the civic message. They shouldn't take for granted that scooter licenses would be renewed in 2023, with the wider market climate definitely not in the favor, proving that they are respectful companies in their marquee city became priority number one. In October 2022, the three operators put together a list of 11 proposals that would improve safety and public space integration, ranging from banning users who do not respect the road traffic regulations to using camera-based sidewalk detection systems. Interesting. I mean, that doesn't prevent them from, what does that really do?
Here's what it does, man. Okay, so like if they'll pack all these weird little features and stuff in scooters because they can, right? Like you can put all this stuff, LiDAR, you can cameras on scooters. You can do this, but honestly, like you said, well, what is that really going to do to prevent anything when you're just standing on a deck, boning out, right? Nothing. But what you can do is it's actually a safety selling point. I'm throwing that in air quotes, right? To the municipalities when you are looking to get permitted to operate in that municipality, right? Well, our scooters, they're tamper proof. They're this. They're equipped with LiDAR cameras and LiDAR cameras and this and that. And it all sounds great. They can pack this stuff in there, but any real true application, I don't think there's any.
No. Dot, Lime, and Tier even started implementing some of those items. They added an age verification system and asked its users to take a photo of their ID. Similarly, there is now a registration plate on every scooter. This way, if there are two people riding a scooter at the same time, the police can write down the registration plate and the current time. Scooter companies can then find out who was using a specific scooter at the specific time. Is that really like the priority here? Like, I mean,
in Europe, yes.
But I'm saying overall, right? From a safety regulation standpoint, are we like getting into high speed chases, chasing down scooters? Put your hands in the air, get on the ground. Step away from the vehicle. Like, is that really what it's coming down to? You have nothing else better to do but to chase down people on scooters.
In Europe, what they did was when they finally legalized all this stuff, like e-bikes and e-scooters and all that, they basically stipulated that when you get these things, like every last one of them, dude, has to have a damn license plate and registration, bro. Yeah. So I was gonna say in Europe, yep.
Wow. But couldn't we digitize something like that, right? Couldn't we? Apple,
yeah.
With the latest iOS update, you can now put your driver's license on your phone now, with the with their platform. I don't need to really walk around with my wallet and everything if everything has been centralized into my device. But you and I have talked about this, I think, offline before. But the scooter itself should hold the majority of the credentials of the operator.
Dude, see the thing is that the scooter itself is attached to a fleet software,
Right.
right? Where on the back end, I have all ride data, I have all the ride logs. I know I can find, I know which user, right?
Hmm.
So this is that whole thing where you were saying like, okay, somebody commits a crime on something, right? Dude, dead ass. For us to operate here, we have to patch into an API with the city,
Hmm.
right? So that they have access to all ride data. They can, so if something happens and there was a scooter involved, we could track down who used it, who it was.
Right.
Dead ass.
Crazy. The city of Paris is divided on scooter regulation. Deputy Mayor David Belliard has been one of the most vocal opponents. He regularly claims the scooters should be banned, and his words carry weight. Among other things, he's in charge of transportation. But the fact that he's using media interviews to say that scooters should be banned proves that not everyone in the city council agrees with him. Quote, it's a personal opinion. He's against shared scooters. Dot's Matthew Forey said. We don't really understand why. He doesn't give any rational explanation. In particular, what does Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, think about scooters? Nobody knows for sure. Quote, the city council has not communicated any decision yet. To date, the city has not responded to any of the meeting requests and letters sent by Lime or the two other operators, a Lime spokesman told me. Quote, we have not heard back from Paris yet. Our contract ends March 23rd. Yeah, I would just pull out. When we renew contracts, we usually need to know 90 days before contract ends what's going on. And if I don't hear anything within that 90-day time period, it just, we just consider it to be a no go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a no go.
That's I don't know. My thought has always been, okay, um, if it's not causing issues, one,
Yeah.
and the city's seeing tax revenues from it, two,
Mhm.
typically I would think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, what do they have? What 300,000? Well, at least not in Paris, but across Europe, they say
300, it
300,000.
was like, yeah, 300,000, or yeah, it was something like that, some
Yeah,
crazy number.
ridership something like 300,000. So what are we talking about here? If I read correctly between the lines, and Hidalgo will ultimately have to decide whether scooter licenses should be renewed. Everything else you hear on this topic is just noise. So I won't read any further because just that alone tells us that.
Hey, just scroll back up real quick. I just want to, right there, reducing. What did it say? What did it say? Go down. Reducing dependence on scooters in Paris. See, this is all right. So that what do you? So then, where are we shifting the transportation load to?
They want people to walk, I guess.
Okay.
In contrast to the early days of shared scooters, micromobility companies have mostly switched to full-time employees to repair, replace, and move vehicles and swap batteries. There are currently 800 people working for Dot, Lime, and Tier in Paris. There are another 200 people working indirectly with the three operators. In particular, a subcontractor company patrols the streets of Paris and works with all three companies.
That's interesting.
How do you get the contract on that?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because I would think that there may be some worry about shared intellectual property, knowing of different sort of systems. I don't know. I would be worried about something like that. If I was
Either that,
yeah.
I was gonna say either that, or it's literally just a collection service, right? So like they may have like they may have like three vans. One of them is for Lime scooters. One of them is for the other one. Because I'm also assuming here that they largely have like zones or territories.
Mm-hmm.
Now those zones and territories can overlap. That's where you can see both Lime and the other two operators, right? Their scooters kind of mixed up, on one street corner, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other areas where you can go to, and you'll primarily just only see Lime, or you'll only primarily just see the other operators, right? And then in terms of like the technology on the scooters and whatnot, mm, I would say there's a lot you would have to do to try to reverse engineer a scooter, right? To try to like get access to say like back end data.
Mhm.
I think well, somebody who's extremely savvy could probably pull some stuff, but yeah.
Mhm. And this model has been working well. Dot says that it is currently profitable in Paris when you take into account all fixed and variable costs associated with its Paris operations, including vehicle depreciation and amortization. EBIT profitable. While Dot, Lime, and Tear are currently live in dozens of cities, Paris still represents a good chunk of these companies' revenues. That's probably why they decided to launch bike sharing services with free floating electric bikes. Quote, we are currently operating 7,000 bikes in Paris and we plan to continue doing so, a line spokesperson told me. Similarly, Dot has a fleet of 3,500 bikes while Tier manages 2,500 electric bikes. This time, there was no tender process for free floating bikes, but operators still had to sign an agreement with the city of Paris. They also pay a license fee. Hmm.
Wow.
Adding electric bikes is a smart move, as there are some synergies between scooters and bikes. For instance, Lime uses the same batteries for its scooters and bikes, meaning that the operations team can swap batteries for all vehicles when roaming the streets of Paris. But
Yep.
it's clear that Dot, Lime, and Tier still want to offer scooters after March 23rd. On on Wednesday, a group of employees working for Dot, Lime, and Tier protested in front of the city hall. They were asking for a meeting with city officials to get some clarity. Once again, their demands were met with silence. Even if the city of Paris doesn't seem to care about media coverage on the license renewal, the impending deadline means that the mayor of Paris will have to make a decision sooner rather than later. And many micromobility companies and local governments are turning their attention to what that answer will be.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, you got people's like jobs, right? Are kind of hedging on this.
Mhm.
Yeah, you would want to know, man. It's hard to keep employees motivated when they don't even know if they're going to have a job at the beginning of the next year.
Yeah. Update as of today, Mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, announced that um, Paris residents will get to vote whether they want to ban free floating electric scooters or not. So,
Wait, wait. So, so she's gonna like basically say, well, whatever it is, I didn't make the decision.
yeah. And if you have 300,000 plus users um, in the EU, especially in Paris, and Paris is your biggest city for e-scooters and micromobility, then obviously people are going to vote on it. See, this takes all the responsibility out of her hands and puts it
Yeah,
back into the citizens, but which is what democracy is supposed to be. But the problem is you waited till the last minute.
yeah, that's what I mean. You know what I mean? For all, okay. My assumption though is that Parisians are going to vote yay.
Yeah,
That's my thought.
yeah. But if you're thinking like me, and I don't see any updates in the contract within, any feedback within 90 days, I have to pull out. I have to take that into consideration that this is a no-go. So if I
Yeah,
pull all of my vehicles out and then you say, oh, well, it's going to go to a referendum. What? What are you talking about? Why didn't you just call me and tell me that?
yeah. Or you're gonna roll the dice and say, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna assume that they're gonna do it, and then let's just say they screw around and decide, yeah, you know what, we're gonna nix this, right? And like you wake up one morning, you got your stuff out on the streets, and all of a sudden, dude, you got all these trucks impounding every goddamn thing, and they're trying to find you. Well, you're operating, you're not operating with a valid permit or what have you. And it was just like, well, you guys just drug your goddamn feet to the last minute. And you know what I mean? This is a major market. We were making money and stuff, and we couldn't get no answer. So yeah, I see there, man. Like the answer in this regard is give it, let the people decide.
Yeah, and they're ultimately going to decide, yes, we want this. There will be no banning of this, right? You know, People go to McDonald's all the time and they buy these hot apple pies, fresh out of the microwave, whatever that convection of it is. And when they bite into it, they burn the roof of their mouth. No one's trying to ban apple pies from McDonald's, though, right? I just find it interesting that there's such a, they find themselves in this sort of dilemma that says, oh, well, these things, I'm not really a big fan of them. You don't even ride them. Why do you care? Like, what's going on? All this
yeah, whether you're a fan of it or not is irrelevant, right? The thing about it is, it's the future of transportation. Dude, e-scooters ain't going nowhere. E-bikes ain't going nowhere.
No, the market is here. The market is here. Why all of a sudden would it just disappear because one person doesn't like them? Yeah,
I don't like it.
Crazy, man. All right, this is from NPR. EVs are expensive. These city commuters ditch cars altogether for e-bikes. I do like these. I haven't gotten a chance to actually.
The cargos.
Yeah, the front cargos, but there's a specific name for them. I think it's called like Boxsphere or something like that. It's a European name for it. Electric cars are seen as a key way to reduce climate change causing emissions, but they are expensive. The average price paid for a new electric vehicle towards the end of 2022 was over $65,000, according to Kelley Blue Book. While running costs are typically lower than a gas-powered vehicle, there are tax, insurance, and parking costs. Lelak Almagor thinks there's a better way to ditch a fossil-fueled car. Quote, I just really hate driving. The sitting and the being stuck and the waiting is just really not for me, said for the mother of three from Washington, D.C. She takes her family almost everywhere by electric bike. She proved it by taking me on a ride, along with the 3-year-old son, Orange, strapped in next to me. Well, I guess this is a picture I'm sitting right here. Despite clutching her tambourine, Tamar got a little fussy, perhaps because of the 200-pound stranger now crowding her space, but was quickly lulled to sleep once we got underway. Oren was enjoying the crests and dips of the DC Metropolitan Branch Trail. Quote, I like the up and down, he squealed. Al Magor had tried other options for commuting, such as public transportation, but that became problematic once she had children. Quote, I used to metro a lot and take the bus a lot. And then when I had kids, it just became a little bit too complicated to get to where we were going with the kids and the stuff that the kids have, she said. Almagor had also tried to ride with a regular bike in the past, but describes herself as a failed bike commuter. Quote, I'm not that spandex cyclist type of person. That's not me. I really hate biking up hills, she said. Electric bikes use a battery and an electric motor to boost the rider's own input, or in some cases, to take over entirely. Replacing car trips for those kinds of errands has an obvious environmental impact, even if that's not Almagor's main motivation for riding. Quote, I felt guilty every time I used the car, partly because of my concern about fossil fuels and my family's carbon footprint. But if there hadn't been a way to fix it that was convenient and joyful, we would probably still be driving and feeling guilty about it, she said. Buying an e-bike has changed more than the way Almagor gets around. After 19 years as a teacher, she's loving bike life so much that she ended up working for the company she bought the bike from. The ease and convenience of Almagor experiences could convince more people to give up their car for the short trips, and there are many of them. The Bureau of Transportation Statistics found that in 2021, 52% of all trips were 3 miles or less, a distance most people could cover by e-bike. That's why the city and county of Denver is giving out vouchers towards the purchase of an e-bike. Have you heard of that complex? Is that going on in your area?
Wait. What was that last part?
That's why the city and county of Denver is giving out vouchers towards the purchase of an e-bike.
Dude, it was October of last year. Sonoma County gave out vouchers. I like in the month of October, we sold like 10 bikes to
Mhm.
people that were using those vouchers. Yep.
Quote, we have a fairly car dependent culture, so there's a fairly high rate of single occupancy vehicles trips, said Grace Trocolo Rink, executive director of the city's Office of Climate Action, Sustainability and Resiliency. The program was launched last year on Earth Day. Denver residents could get $400 for an e-bike or $1,200 if they have a lower income. And that amount is right around the price of an entry-level e-bike, which is more expensive than most regular bikes. Now, I know on PacificRides.io, you can get a pretty good scooter, e-scooter, for about probably about $700. And
Yeah,
so,
dude, we can start around 4.99. We can start at 5 and we go up, but yeah, I mean, e-bikes as well.
yeah,
And those e-bikes that we sell, it's not like you the e-bike thing is that's an interesting thing, right? Because obviously a majority of the stuff comes from where, right?
mhm,
However, not all e-bikes are built the same. It's about the batteries and the components. What type of motor kit? Typically, if it's Bafang, then it's some good stuff. That's what we use. And from a battery standpoint, LGs, LG or Samsung packs.
mhm.
So as long as you've got a bike that's got, bare minimum a Bafang kit, because if it's got a Bafang kit, that means it has a good battery that comes with it.
If they wanted an e-cargo bike, the kind really suited to replacing car trips, they got an additional $500. The vouchers were so popular, the city's funding for all 2022 was quickly allocated. The program will resume at the end of January 2023, although the voucher amounts will be slightly lower. The city says this will help them make the funding available to more new e-bike riders. Trocolo Rink said the vouchers, quote, got people off the fence when it came to buying an e-bike. That cost can be sizable, with e-bikes usually costing more than what are becoming known as acoustic bikes. But the Denver program has the intended effect, according to the preliminary survey results of voucher recipients. Quote, on average, the people who have responded are saying they are biking 26.2 miles overall per week, and they are replacing 3.4 car trips for an average of 21.6 miles of replaced car trips per week. I think that's a pretty good result, noted
Yes.
Trocolo Rink. What do you think?
No, I said, yeah, that's a good. That's pretty good right there.
Numbers like that are why bike advocates like Noah Bayan, people for bikes want to see incentives at the federal level. What's this right here? Is that how people are locking their bikes up now? Interesting. Quote, every community should be thinking about the fastest ways to cut their emissions. It's not about it's not building out necessarily an electric vehicle charging network that'll be live in 5 or 10 years. It's giving people an e-bike and giving them a safe place to ride it, she said. Yeah, there's it's not just buying the bike. You need the infrastructure to back it up. Like you would never go out and buy trains, but never have any railway to put them on.
Yeah, like no, no. I was like, now we got the trains,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We'll wait for the railway to get laid down first before we start, riding trains or something like that. I mean, it's just silly. Bayan is hoping that lawmakers in Washington will pass the kind of incentives for electric bikes that are available to people who buy electric cars. Quote, it's about giving people choice in how they move. And if we're giving people an incentive to choose cars, electric vehicles, and not necessarily an electric bicycle, then we're locking our transportation system into the way it has been, which is really car dominated, she added. Very true. One problem with e-bike adoption will be with people living in rural areas, according to the Skylar McKinley of AAA Colorado. Quote, It is incredibly expensive across America to live in the cities right now. Folks increasingly are not living in urban centers. They are further flung, where they might have to drive a significant amount of time to get to, say, the grocery store. In that case, they are probably going to go with an internal combustion engine over an e-bike. McKinley says that gasoline powered vehicles are likely to be the preferred option for a while because of the high price of electric cars. Quote, the problem with electric vehicles from an equity perspective is that the average cost of an electric vehicle in the United States is north of $65,000. And while rebates and refunds and incentives are available, that is steep for anyone buying a new car. Certainly, there's very limited used car market for EVs because they are relatively new. So finding an affordable electric car is not in the cards for many working Americans. Despite working in the automotive field, McKinley can see the appeal of e-bikes. If you live in the city and need to go buy some groceries in the supermarket that's 2 miles away, that absolutely does not need to be a car trip. You can get a cargo e-bike and do that task safely, efficiently, and just about as easily as you would with an automobile, he said.
I
But
have
no,
to agree to that one. I
mhm,
have to agree to that one. When the weather is, you know, better over here,
mhm,
that's literally all my daughter and I use when we go to the store. We use our scooters. Well, like they're talking e-bikes, we'll use the scooters.
mhm.
I got an e-bike too. I'll take that. I'll just as quickly take that one. But if her and I are going, we hop on the scooters, man. And that's a 2 mile. It's 2 miles there, 2 miles back.
But the rider experience is different, right? Because with e-scooters, you're standing up, but with a bike, you're sitting down and you're pedaling.
Hmm.
And I think for some people, the experiences with e-scooters is get on and go, whereas with e-bikes, it's still pedal assist, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
the experience of floating while riding is a different experience than what you get by pedaling.
By actually pedaling. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Alcatechy says no one's taking e-bikes to Costco's or Sam Clubs. No, take a cargo.
yeah, that's the whole point of the article,
Yeah,
right?
that's the whole point of the. Yeah, take a cargo.
Yeah, that the cargo bike is a car replacement. This is what they're trying to use to replace cars. In a sense, most of my grocery shopping is 2.5 bags.
Yep.
If I got like if I want to separate the meat from other items, then that's pretty much the 2.5 comes from. But for all intents and purposes, I can put my grocery shopping in that cargo bike.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't really need a 2,000 pound vehicle for that purpose. I think that one of these would come in handy. The only problem is where you're going to park it and things like that, because most parking lots and things like that are not set up for cargo bikes.
Yeah.
You could put a bike into you could strap a bike to a slot like a stanchion or something like that, but you can't do that with a cargo bike.
No.
It's kind of obstructing the traffic itself.
No, and I think like let's just say like if we're talking Costco or something like that,
Mhm,
typically, they're gonna, they'll be cool. Hey man, can I just park this right over here? Right? They'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna be putting my stuff in here and taking it home,
mhm,
right? And they'll typically be okay with this type of stuff, right? I
mhm,
think when if you get, let's just say we fast forward 5, 6 years, and let's just say that becomes more commonplace, people
mhm,
taking cargo bikes to Costco, right?
mhm.
Then yeah, I think that's when there might be some sort of accommodation that needs to be made, like just like a parking station or something like that. I mean, these are small; they're not the size of cars, right? See, so space can be found to dock. Where I would say you need a dock, 5 docks maybe at the most, because you can't. I can't imagine just at least for right now, a whole bunch of people riding cargo bikes there. But um, yeah, there'd be space to go ahead and provide docks for this stuff. Jay Charles says, "Are those fast? Those are typically speed capped around 20 miles an hour."
Like one of these is what I'm referring to here.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Those, man. I have a partner that actually sourced similar to the white one. He sent me some images of a e-bike or a cargo bike, and it's just like that one.
Yeah.
just like that one. And I mean, I think even they were testing. FedEx was testing those, the same ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they put those on hold temporarily. I think due to the economy.
Yeah. Well, I think also, I think because you had sent me the UPS one,
Hmm.
right? That e-bike that where it has literally it's literally like a small UPS truck.
Hmm.
You guys got to see this. It's like literally like it's a dude sitting on a on a on a seat pedaling. He's got like the little handlebar sort of dash thing right there, and then there's like the windshield. There's a little windshield wiper and all that, and then there's like a big box in the back. Where all the UPS packages and stuff like that go. So I think that for UPS, for FedEx, DHL, I think for those types of industries, they're going to use that style of bike. I can see those cargo bikes also being used. I just think that there's like a theft issue, right? Because the packages are exposed.
Unless they are, there's some locking mechanism on it. I would assume that they would have to, to prevent asset loss, right?
Mhm. I mean, the ones when I saw FedEx use case and it was like that white one that you just showed. I mean, the packages were just in there, right? So they weren't really like secure, so to speak. you know
Hmm.
and I think that might be why they'll move from that. But this is the reason why these companies do this, right? They'll test different vehicles and stuff, right? They'll
Hmm.
test different ones. Okay, well, this got us, we were able to deliver this many packages and then and this amount of hours, right? Thing holds a charge. They'll give it all the pros, and then what are the cons? Well, you know if the driver pulls a package out, scans it, goes, walks up to the door, you got like three other mofos to come bum rush the bike, right? Still packages and stuff, right? It's more difficult. Like with that UPS, that one right there, it's a lot more difficult to do that with
Hmm.
that than opposed to say like the open tub cargo bike. And you guys, even though that has four wheels, that is technically a bike
Yeah.
by definition.
Yeah. It functions like a vehicle, but it is technically a bike. I mean, it's a genius design. It's actually a woman who designed it. Um, Very
She
interesting.
literally took the traditional UPS truck, dude, and said, "Well, how do I make a bike into a UPS truck?" Boom, that right there.
Yeah, and I think it holds like 2 dozen packages. So it's what they
Hmm.
call the small parcels. So I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. I don't see this stuff going away. When you see UPS investing this type of money into it, into the prototype and things like this, that means that this stuff is here to stay.
Yep, yep. And my buddy Tim, man, over at BME Bikes, man, where we do like the custom bikes and stuff, man. That that is exactly what we're looking for. That type of contract.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for.
We get to the next item on the docket. All right, this is from CBS News. AI powered robot lawyer will be first of its kind to represent defendant in court. This should be very interesting for those who need child support cases
Ta-ha.
taken care of. A robot lawyer powered by artificial intelligence would be the first of its kind to help a defendant fight a traffic ticket in court next month. Joshua Browder, CEO of Do Not Pay, said the company's AI creation runs on a smartphone, listens to court arguments, and formulates responses for the defendant. The AI lawyer tells the defendant what to say in real time through headphones. The artificial intelligence firm has already used AI-generated form letters and chatbots to help people decide secure refunds for in-flight Wi-Fi that didn't work, as well as to lower bills and dispute parking tickets. among other issues, according to Browder. All told, the company has relied. What the fuck is this? All told, the company has relied on these AI templates to win more than 2 million customer service disputes in court cases on behalf of individuals against institutions or organizations, he added. It has raised $27.7 million from tech-focused venture capital firms, including Anderson Horowitz and Crew Capital. Quote, in the past year, AI tech has really developed and allowed us to go back and forth in real time with corporations and governments, he told CBS Money Watch for recent advances. Quote, we spoke live with companies and customer service reps to lower bills with companies. And what we're doing next month is to try and use the tech in the courtroom for the first time. If the robot lawyer loses the case, do not pay will cover any fines, Browder said. Browder declined to disclose the name of the client in the court. Legal in some, but not in most courtrooms. Some courts allow defendants to wear hearing aids, some versions of which are Bluetooth enabled. That's how Browder determined that do not pay technology can legally be used in this case. However, the tech isn't legal in most courtrooms. Some states require that all parties consent to be recorded, which rules out the possibility of a robot lawyer entering many courtrooms. Of the 300 cases do not pay considered for a trial of its robot lawyer, only 2 were feasible. Quote, it's within the letter of the law, but I don't think anyone could ever imagine this would happen, Browder said. It's not in the spirit of law, but we're trying to push things forward, and a lot of people can't afford legal help. If these cases are successful, it will encourage more courts to change their rules. Lawyers would not support this. No shit. The ultimate goal, according to Browder, is to democratize legal representation by making it free for those who can't afford it. In some cases, eliminating the need for pricey attorneys. But given that the technology is illegal in many courtrooms, he doesn't expect to be able to commercialize the product anytime soon. Quote, this courtroom stuff is more advocacy, he said. It's more to encourage the system to change, Browder said, or Browder explained. He is well aware of the challenge and hurdles on the horizon. When he tweeted about demoing Do Not Pay's robot lawyer in court, lawyers threatened him and told him he'd be sent to jail, he told CBS Money Watch. Quote, there are a lot of lawyers and bar associations that would not support this, Browder said. Putting chat GPT through law school. Browder wants to arm individuals with the same tools that large corporations can typically access, but are out of reach for those without deep resources. Quote, what we are trying to do is automate consumer rights, Browder said. New technologies typically fall into the hands of big companies first, and our goal is to put it in the hands of the people first. AI-powered chatbot ChatGPT has exploded in popularity recently for its ability to spit out coherent essays on wide-ranging topics in under 1 minute. The technology has drawn interest from the investors, with the Wall Street Journal reporting that parent company OpenAI could soon attract investments valuing it at $29 billion.
Microsoft has already tossed their bid in. I forgot. It was like I forgot how much. They're supposed to be putting like 10 billion, dude, into some part of Chat GPT something. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. But Browder highlighted its shortcomings and, in some cases, lack of sophistication. Quote, Chat GPT is very good at holding conversations, but it's terrible at knowing the law. We've had to retrain those AIs to know the law, Browder said. Quote, AI is a high school student, and we're sending it to law school. Yeah, that's
Now, yeah, I'm kind of torn on the whole AI thing right now, right? Because I've seen a lot with this whole Chat GPT thing. Now, in a legal context, that guy said something very interesting. He said something about putting something to the effect of like putting it back in the hands of the people. That was that. If I'm that line that he said, he was speaking to like, well, what we're trying to do is empower people, right? And so I think I think it could be a very sharp legal tool, especially if you're like writing up, writs of discoveries and cease and desist, or there's a lot of different types of legal documents that you could utilize something like this for. When it comes to actual client representation, though, oh yeah, I could totally see where the bar associations are going to be like bullshit.
Well, put it like this: Chat GPT versus the manosphere.
Yeah.
Who's the real master teacher?
Chat GPT. No. Dude, he can spit out a whole essay in a minute. Dude, look, wait, Mike, check this out, dude. I seen this dude. I saw this guy. I was this one channel, man. I was checking out, right? It's like a week ago, and this dude typed in he wanted Chat GPT to give him a code set, right? But he was very, very, very specific about what kind of code he needed. And it was the way he was typing in what he needed the code. He's like, can you write a script for blah, 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 right? That does da 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 da. He goes, with the ability to later install blah, 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 da 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 da. And so he hits the button, and Chat GPT sits there for like, I don't know, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and then boom. It's like a little like code. And then the dude's like looking at it, and he's just like, you guys, this is scary.
It produces things really quickly, but we don't know the efficacy.
But you don't know the efficacy, the exact. See, that's where I was saying I'm torn.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm like, well, yeah, it did that. Yeah, it gave you that essay, but I mean, it's one thing to write something from the mind, and then it's another thing to ask something to write it for you. Right. It's just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of torn at a certain level when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. Is ChatGPT a cybersecurity threat?
Oh.
Since its debut in November, ChatGPT has become the internet's new favorite plaything. The AI-driven natural language processing tool rapidly amassed more than 1 million users who have used the web-based chatbot for everything from generating wedding speeches and hip-hop lyrics to crafting academic essays and writing computer code.
Wait. Is ChatGPT's got bars?
For cats that don't have bars. There's a lot of dudes out here, man, that they need a ghostwriter. I mean, for lack of a better description. Not only have ChatGPT's human-like abilities taken to the internet by storm, but it has also set a number of industries on edge. A New York school banned ChatGPT over fears it could be used to cheat. Copywriters are already being replaced, and reports claim Google is so alarmed by ChatGPT's capabilities that it issued a code red to ensure the survival of the company's search business.
Oh, wow.
It appears the cybersecurity industry, a community that has long been skeptical about the potential implications of modern AI, is also taking notice amid concerns that ChatGPT could be abused by hackers with limited resources and zero technical knowledge. Just weeks after ChatGPT debuted, Israeli cybersecurity company Checkpoint demonstrated how the web-based chatbot, when used in tandem with OpenAI's code writing system Codex, could create a phishing email capable of carrying a malicious payload. Checkpoint Threat Intelligence Group Manager Sergey Sharkovich told TechCrunch that he believes use cases like this illustrate that ChatGPT has the potential to significantly alter the cyber threat landscape, adding that it repeats another step forward in the dangerous evolution of increasingly sophisticated and effective cyber capabilities. TechCrunch, too, was able to generate a legitimate-looking phishing email using the chatbot. When we first asked Chat GPT to craft a phishing email, the chatbot denied the request. Quote, I am not programmed to create or promote malicious or harmful content. A prompt spat back, but rewriting the request slightly allowed us to easily bypass the software's built-in guardrails. Many of the security experts TechCrunch spoke to believe that ChatGPT's ability to write legitimate-sounding phishing emails, the top attack vector for ransomware, will see the chatbot widely embraced by cyber criminals, particularly those who are not native English speakers. Chester Winiski, a principal research scientist at Sophos, said it's easy to see ChatGPT being abused for all sorts of social engineering attacks, where the perpetrators want to appear to write in a more convincing American English. Quote, at a basic level, I have been able to write some great phishing lures with it, and I expect it I expect it could be utilized to have more realistic interactive conversations for business email compromise and even attacks over Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and other chat apps.
Shit.
The idea that a chatbot could write convincing text and realistic interactions isn't so far-fetched. For example, you can instruct ChatGPT to pretend to be a general practitioner surgeon or general physician surgeon surgery. I don't know.
That's another TechCrunch. They should have used ChatGPT to write this article.
Maybe they did. And it will generate life-like text in seconds. Hannah Darley, who heads threat research at Darktrace, told TechCrunch, quote, it's not hard to imagine how threat actors might use this as a force multiplier. Checkpoint also recently sounded the alarm over the chatbot's apparent ability to help cyber criminals write malicious code. The researchers say they witnessed at least 3 instances where hackers with no technical skills boasted how they leverage ChatGPT's AI smarts for malicious purposes. See, I would argue that they're not hackers then.
They're not, dude. They're not even script kiddies.
Yeah, they're not hackers. So at this point, you're not really. You're talking about taking.
Dude, you're a scammer that uses ChatGPT. That's what you are.
Yeah, well, you're talking about just using regular civilians. Civilians are just using technology to do
to figure out how to screw somebody over.
See, legally, I don't know if that's going to hold up in court, right? I don't know if that holds up in court because it'll be just like you wouldn't take Smith & Wesson to court if someone used a gun. You wouldn't do that.
No, I mean, the thing is that, web search records, all that stuff could be pulled, right? They could, I'm pretty sure just through IP, they'll even be able to pull in what the inquiry was that you put in, which would show intent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like you could do it, but it's no different than the premeditation aspects of a crime that ultimately gets carried out in any other scenario, right?
Yeah. The researchers say they witnessed at least 3 instances where hackers with no technical skills boasted how they leveraged ChatGPT's AI smarts for malicious purposes. One hacker on a dark web forum showcased code written by ChatGPT that allegedly stole files of interest, compressed them, and then sent them across the web. Another user posted a Python script, which they claim was the first script they had ever created. Checkpoint noted that while the code seemed benign, it could easily be modified to encrypt someone's machine, completely without any user interaction. The same forum user previously sold access to hacked company servers and stolen data, Checkpoint said. How difficult could it be? Dr. Suleiman Ozarslan, a security researcher and the co-founder of Pika Security, recently demonstrated to TechCrunch how ChatGPT was used to write a World Cup themed phishing lure and write Mac OS targeting ransomware code.
Oh.
Ozarslan asked the chatbot to write code for Swift, this programming language used for developing apps for Apple devices, which could find Microsoft Office documents on a MacBook and send them over an encrypted connection to a web server before encrypting the Office documents on the MacBook. Quote, I have no doubts that ChatGPT and other tools like this will democratize cybercrime, said Orzowski. It's bad enough that ransomware code is already available for people to buy off the shelf on the dark web. Now virtually anyone can create it themselves. Unsurprisingly, news of ChatGPT's ability to write malicious code furrowed brows across the industry. It's also seen some experts move to debunk concerns that an AI chatbot could turn wearable wannabe hackers into full-fledged cybercriminals. In a post on Mastodon, independent security researcher the Grudge mock checkpoints claim that ChatGPT will supercharge cybercriminals who suck at coding. Quote, they have to register domains and maintain infrastructure. They need to update websites with new content and test that software, which barely works, continues to barely work on a slightly different platform. They need to monitor their infrastructure for health and check what is happening in the news to make sure their campaign isn't in an article about the top 5 most embarrassing phishing emails or phishing fails, said the Grok. Quote, actually getting malware and using it is a small part of the shit work that goes into being a bottom feeder cyber criminal. Some believe that ChatGPT's ability to write malicious code comes with an upshot. Quote, defenders can use ChatGPT to generate code to simulate adversaries or even automate tasks to make work easier. It has already been used for a variety of impressive tasks, including personalized education, drafting newspaper articles, and writing computer code, said Laura Kinkala, F-Secure's threat intelligence lead. Quote, however, it should be noted that it can be dangerous to fully trust the output of text and code generated by ChatGPT. The code it generates could have security issues or vulnerabilities. The text generated could also have outright factual errors, said Kinkala, laying doubt to the reliability of code generated by ChatGPT. So that's what I was saying earlier. It's not, we don't know the efficacy of it because
Right.
no one's really monitoring what the execution rate is. Some of these articles that we read, you start to question whether or not it was written by an AI bot. So
I'm thinking TechCrunch definitely has AI writing this stuff because we always find like grammatical errors in it.
Yeah. It's not just security professionals who are conflicted on what role ChatGPT will play in the future of cybersecurity. We were also curious to see what ChatGPT had to say for itself when posed the question to the chatbot. Quote, it's difficult to predict exactly how ChatGPT or any other technology will be used in the future, as it depends on how it is implemented and the intentions of those who use it, the chatbot replied. Quote, ultimately, the impact of ChatGPT on cybersecurity will depend on how it is used. It is important to be aware of the potential risk and to take appropriate steps to mitigate them. Now, here's my concern. As someone who does work in cybersecurity, the other side of the security aspect that I worry about, what happens because the way artificial intelligence works, it's fed data. It has to be fed data into the machine learning, the ML aspect, in order for the AI to make a decision. So AI makes a decision based on all of the captured data that is ingested. When you have a society that is born out of racism, and you have people who write malicious, articles, scathing articles about, wokeism, right? Mm-hmm. And they start banning books and stuff like that, critical race theory and anti-critical race theory articles and stuff like that. And then you compound that with visual images. If this falls into the hands of, let's say, a white nationalist or far-right person or an outright racist, they don't need to be all that technically savvy to make this work. What happens here is, and what happens here is the data that is ingested that is already toxic to begin with, let's say law enforcement, if you're collecting data from the 80s and the 90s, the majority of these arrests in certain zip codes are going to show that it's predominantly Black. And so the decisions that get made by Chat GPT or any other AI platform will then say, make decisions based off of bad data. And so it's not like, oh, well, Chat GPT is just going to replace jobs. Not necessarily.
Right.
What it's going to do is it's going to supercharge racism. Because what you're going to have is a society that is moving in the direction of extremities. And so now you can have, what they call fake news. A person could weaponize this and say, hey, write me an article about wokeism or anti-wokeism. And now before you know it, this goes out into certain Reddit groups or whatever, 4chan or whatever it is. A not too savvy person may read this and decide, well, I need to go grab my AR-15 and go up to, Popeyes because there's something up there that I don't like. And I'm triggered right now, like literally. And all this is generated by Chat GPT in the hands of a wrong person. And so these are some of the concerns that I have with Chat GPT, that you can probably set off a lot of conflict, a lot of violence by trying to, generate, automated articles and phishing emails as well. Phishing is really important, but I'm saying the way AI works in general is that injustice, it can only make decisions based on the data it ingests. If the machine learning is constantly correlating bad toxic data, you're going to get a toxic outcome from AI because it can only make those decisions based on the data it ingests. So I worry about these things. We do know law enforcement uses AI. What kind of AI they use, I don't know. But a lot of their, their camera systems.
Yeah, like the LiDAR. Yeah, like the camera systems and shit.
Well, yeah, when you like walk into an airport or something like that, or a bank or something like that, it may say this person, this person may be wanted for something, but it's not really that person. It's the AI can't disseminate between a Black person born in America versus a Black person born in the Caribbean. Yeah, in the diaspora, right? It doesn't know the difference. It just assumes that all Black people are the same. And so now what you have is a lot of Black people getting arrested. I mean, we covered this the last few years. Mm-hmm. Black men having their houses stormed because allegedly they were involved in some kind of criminal mischief, and it really wasn't them.
It wasn't them. Well, Mike, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, also about I think it was with the article with the lawyer, mm-hmm. right? And I was saying, well, there's a part where I'm torn with this. Right, because I can artificial intelligence, things like there's a tool that could be utilized. Obviously, I mean, we use it in micromobility, mm-hmm. right, to create heat maps for the scooters and stuff like that, right? Just going based on take an aggregate of rides from people, and what you get back is a heat map that then will tell me, you know what you should do? Put X amount of scooters over here, and put some over here, and put some right over here, right? Mm-hmm. Based on that data. So it's a tool that I think totally has application. But then there's the flip side to it, like where you were talking about, like a person who writes an article, right? Or no, I'm sorry, the person didn't write the article. They want an article about something, mm-hmm. and the AI gives it to them, mm-hmm. right? And that's where I was like, okay, yeah, because the words in that article didn't come from a human. It didn't come from a human mind. The inquiry came from the human mind, but what you're reading didn't.
Mm-hmm. And the thing here is that AI lacks empathy.
Yes.
And so it doesn't have an emotional response to anything. It has guardrails to say, well, I'm not going to do something malicious, but it can be made to do something malicious. And that's where my concern is, that you may have some kind of extremists in their basement who doesn't have the courage to actually go out there and do something, but he'll leverage something like Chat GPT against a place,
Right.
against, against society by creating, fake news.
Right.
Because I've seen several, like some of these articles that come through in my feed where we're like, oh, Puff Daddy died. Really? Where did that come from? And then when I click on the link, it's not really true. And so things like that do happen, but now you're going to see an acceleration of this. And I worry that when you combine that with camera technology, OpenCV from Amazon, I think Amazon created that OpenCV, and it collects all of these images from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok. A system that powerful that can collect all of these images, collect all of this toxic data, and start to make decisions based off of that, yeah, that's a problem. I consider that to be a huge problem. You're gonna have to start rewriting the laws on technology and innovation from a civil rights standpoint, because all of this would be civil rights violations. How you look, what your ethnicity is, what your nationality is, so on and so forth, and where you live. These are all civil rights violations. You can't discriminate against somebody based on these sort of social factors. And so when we talk about Chat GPT and AI being a threat, the weaponization of it, yeah, you would be concerned. You would be concerned about something like that, because
Right.
what happens when you have, if I'm a bad guy, if I'm a white nationalist, I may want to use, I may buy a dozen drones with some kind of explosive device on them, go to an all-black fest, and weaponize those drones against specific phenotypical features,
Mhm.
using Chat GPT to make those decisions.
Yep. And as I said, man, the human aspect to this, I'm torn in a lot of ways, because there's ways like, you can't underestimate um you can't underestimate the stupidity of humans. Okay. So it can go extremely left, because Chat GPT doesn't have a what am I trying to say? Not a filter, but it basically gives you what you ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put, right? It doesn't take into account, like, so for example, if you ask Chat GPT a question and you want it to write something for you, it doesn't ask you a couple more questions before it does it.
Nope, it just does whatever you tell it.
Just does whatever the hell you tell it to do, or you ask of it.
Yeah.
And so, and like I said, there's been, I'll go ahead and admit, you guys, I have toyed around with it, right? Specifically with regards to creating heat maps, right? There was just some questions I was asking about it, like, yeah, just on my own little whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen like other, like, people, like I say, like on YouTube and stuff. These dudes are asking it some crazy shit, and it was giving back some crazy shit. So then it gives it back to the stupid human, right? And it's just like, okay, stupid human, you got your answer. And then it really just becomes a matter of whether the stupid human is going to do what stupid is and stupid does,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's a tool nonetheless.
It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Like I said, if the consumer can do it, if the consumer has access to it, that means that the adversaries have access to it. And so, especially with the ability to hack electric vehicles or just vehicles in general, especially modern gas-based vehicles, we don't know. It's not that difficult to create a mechanism for gas and brake, a physical apparatus to drive a vehicle. Most vehicles have level 2, level 1 technology at best. Level 3 is something that's only recently taken place. But from a level 1, level 2 standpoint, I know the Volvo that I had, a 2021 Volvo, I think, or a 2022 Volvo, it had the ability to park itself. And so what happens when you combine that with something like Chat GPT behind the wheel, and you
Right.
decide that I'm going to go to a BLM protest and I'm going to run these people down? There's nobody in the vehicle. What happened? I don't know. Who knows? My nose. I don't know. So
I mean, dude, it's not that we're sitting over here trying to give ideas on how to do this kind of stuff, but what we are saying is that this could be utilized to do these things, and
mhm.
it's not that far of a fetch. It really isn't a stretch at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you had whole cybersecurity firms actually bump this against their systems themselves by trying to create what was it the email
Phishing
the
email.
phishing email,
Yeah.
right? You know what I mean, and came up with a very very sophisticated methods. A Mac that has Microsoft documents that aren't encrypted, I think it was, and you know kind of came up with some shit.
Yeah. I mean, these are very, that's, I mean, you're basically talking about data exfiltration, but, what if you're talking about a hospital and you're talking about medical machines that don't have security built in
Oh
that
man,
ChatGPT can compromise?
dude, let's not even get into hospital equipment and machinery, right? Pacemakers, even.
What happens if you're talking about an airport that has arriving and departure billboards in place that
W-
basically can manipulate the arrival and departure displays?
Well, Mike,
Uh,
didn't they just ground all flights just a few days ago?
yeah, because the system basically had a database error, um, and it had to reset. It basically hit its capacity, and so these are the sort of things that I mean, I work in cybersecurity, but from a civilian standpoint, this can happen. This can happen, and I'm almost guaranteed that a national a white nationalist or some other extremist will potentially use this for their advantage.
I was gonna say, yeah, I wouldn't limit it to a white supremacist or anything. Extremists, right? Because this is like you'll have these people that'll sit there, um, and they'll think, how can I do, and it'll be like some heinous shit, right?
Hmm.
Now they don't have to ask it. They don't have to look up and ask it. They
Hmm.
ask it to Chat GPT.
Yeah. Let me drop the link in the chat. See if
Okay.
anybody wants to come up. But
Hey, I'm gonna go. I'll go ahead. I'm just gonna go re up on my tea.
yeah,
Okay.
the purpose of AI. I mean, we talked about this in the past, but the manosphere kind of worries about AI may take my job or something like that. But in reality, AI is meant to be a complementary add-on, to any sort of business operation. And so it's not meant to replace anybody. When you have remedial tasks that are in place and they're part of a process, then what you want to do is automate those tasks. And something like Chat GPT or any other AI platform should be leveraged to remediate to automate those remediated tasks at hand. And so that's really where AI is supposed to come in. It's supposed to be a turbocharge or a supercharger to your everyday um, ability to operate, within a business setting, from a corporation standpoint or from an enterprise standpoint. And so people kind of misconstrue what AI is supposed to be. Like it's not like, oh well, AI is going to replace all of the cashiers at Walmart or Target or something like that. It really does not do that. They have the machines there because the task of a cashier has been superseded financially by the technology. Now, not every store has cashless cashier checkout, and so AI does not necessarily replace that job 100%. You always have a person who's there to monitor the machines in case the machine goes down or in case a person is confused about how to operate the machine. for that matter. And so we want to keep in mind that AI is not meant to replace humans, not, at least not at that level, because they lack that empathy, the emotional response and stuff like that. Even most people who call tech support or customer service, whatever it is, they typically don't want to talk to the automated agent. So what they do is they hit 0 to talk to an operator, right? Talk to a human. They want to talk to a human. Humans don't like robots. They just don't like it, because it doesn't have the same sort of experience. The robot experience has not matured enough in order to completely replace humans altogether. So, hey, sac passe, J. Charles. While we wait for J. Charles to get his mic together, let me just continue on and say that I think AI to help us, that does make a lot of sense. Like I said, repeatable tasks are really where you want to put AI. You don't really want to put AI in the place of a human. Like you would never put AI in place of dispatchers for law enforcement or first responders. You know, who wants to pick up a phone and call 911 only to talk to an automated robot? That's it's infallible. You know, it's unfathomable to have that sort of process in place. So,
yeah, Mike, come back.
What's going on?
Good evening, brothers. How y'all
Hey,
doing?
Charles, what's going on?
What's going on, bro?
Not much, not much. Great articles you guys are presenting. The only thing that kind of PT, I know you're in the field of cybersecurity. What type of countermeasures will be in place to kind of counteract these type of issues? Because look, I'm kind of seeing a whole other industry opening up to defend this type of stuff, right? So, yeah, it's a problem, but it also is an opportunity that could be opening, could be emerging in that market. So, like, what kind of measures do you think could be in place for that? Because I don't know coding, right? I don't know all that stuff, but I just see opportunity there. So, what do you think?
I don't think that. So they have something called low code and no code now, right? It's been around for a few years. I think we've talked about it in the past, but low code means you need to put the minimum input to get the maximum output to make a task function. No code means that there's no code necessary. Chat GPT is no code. Basically, you tell it to do something and it will do it, or if it's capable of doing it, it will do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where this is going, the low code, no code aspect. And I think a lot more organizations and enterprises will start adopting this because they have something called citizen developer. A citizen developer is a common person who can actually build out applications with no coding experience. And so this is where we are right now. We talked about this 4 years ago, but now we're at this point where
It's here.
you're literally going to have this sort of, your average LA, New York City person who has a great idea but doesn't know how to write code will go to something like Chat GPT and say, build this out for me, and then Chat GPT spits out the best version of what it's capable of doing, if it's capable. Yeah.
I was gonna say I've seen this. So some of the other, I'd say, man, I've been doing just some nerding out on this stuff, like just low key. So there's you got these dudes now that are saying, oh man, you can make X amount of dollars per week, per month, using Chat GPT, right? And so like one of the examples that they're given is web development. Okay. So basically I've seen dudes like type in the instructions for a website and literally in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they have a whole website up done. The Chat GPT gave them all the code for everything. So they just went, oh, okay. Went right on over to their little server, went in there, website. Just like that, right? So then their thought is, okay, well, you can do web development. I'm throwing this in air quotes now, right? Website development for people. Are you really doing it?
Well, the thing here is who's evaluating the code to make sure that it's right. How do we know that we're not putting out PII, personally identifiable information,
Right.
or sensitive information, business or BPI, business proprietary information, PHI, protected health information. These are sort of things that need to be evaluated. This is where a human comes in. That stuff needs to be understood, and so there's a lot of risk involved in using Chat GPT outside of repeatable tasks. Now, you take a complex task like building a website. Yeah, you can build it and all, but I'm not putting my sensitive information past it.
I'm not going to go to your website. If I know it's built with ChatGPT, I'm not going to go and like buy something on your site.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want my credit card being used on it because it hasn't been tested. What was the testing that was done on there? How do we know if it's what the efficacy is of it? We still have not evaluated it enough. And I think that people are just trying to figure out a way to monetize Chat GPT rather than to understand artificial intelligence as a whole.
Yeah.
So do you foresee like a slew of like lawsuits coming out?
No.
In the near future.
I mean, lawsuits like with
as far as like like you guys were explaining that this personal information, business information being put out there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think like possibly like that could happen? Like what do you? Because you called this 4 years ago, right? I know you guys called this out 4 years ago, but like what do you see the next 4 years of this going? Like, what do you see it now?
It's only going to get better because you're going to have to train it. Go ahead, Complex.
I was just going to say, with regards to the lawsuit, that goes back to what Mike and I were talking about earlier, where the Chat GPT is just a tool, right? You see, so if I used it and I didn't verify fully the code, right, that I got from it, I built a website. Somebody went to your site, right, and then bought something, and then as a result of that. Right, your credit card information got out, and then that credit card got ran up, and it's determined that the information came from your site. So when I went to your site and I bought something, somebody else got access to my shit, and so what I can't now do is blame ChatGPT. I go after you because it's your site.
Yeah, your name is on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's where it's sort of like ChatGPT is literally it's a tool. It's just a tool. We're talking about the human input with regards to it. On its own, it's not going to do anything, right? It depends on the human input.
And I've been subscribed now over a month. How often do you brothers host lives? We try to go live every week now.
Yeah, we try to yeah, it's been kind of boop, 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 up and down and whatever for a minute, but we're trying to get some consistency back going.
Yeah, so we're doing the space and tech talks on Mondays, and then maybe around like Thursday or Friday we might do a complete tech talk on a specific subject. And so and then we used to cover economics and geopolitics, but we'll slowly get back into that. Probably by February you'll start to see a lot more content come down.
Because I did, Mike, something interesting. The meetup in Davos. I think I don't know how warm people are with, or how warm they will be to like WEF type discussions, right? World Economic Forum and all that, right? But that was a major thing that just took place in Switzerland, so that would definitely fall under the geopolitics category there. And I think we should be just like how we're doing a deep dive with Chat GPT and all this AI stuff. I think the World Economic Forum, and that's something that really we need to really do a deep dive on that.
Yeah. Shonda H says that's true. They had a major cybersecurity hack in a large hospital system in the U.S. largest medical center last year. It took them months to get things back straight. Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a common thing, mostly because a lot of your organizations have not been able to pivot to more modern systems, because most of your medical systems and stuff like that, for a lot of your institutions, they're not up to the task of handling a cyber threat at that level. A lot of people, a lot of your security managers, directors, and CISOs and stuff like that are sitting on pins and needles because they know it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when they get bit by a ransomware attack. And so it's hard to pivot because you got to make sure that everything in the organization works. You can't have, like, for example, we had an issue with a vulnerability management system that could not communicate out to get threat intelligence updates that need to be done multiple times a day because it was being blocked by a firewall that it had a flaw within its design. These are the sort of things that happen that make it difficult for many organizations to actually secure themselves because there's so many different sort of systems that can't interoperate with each other correctly, whether it's Cisco or Juniper or you're talking about Palo Alto. There's just so many different systems in place, and it's not easy. It's not easy. So I can't blame some of these hospitals for their issues because you can't take systems offline in a hospital. They have to function.
They have to be online.
Yeah. They have to. There is no other way around this, and so. That's what it is. Plug Chat GPT into the OBD2 port of your vehicle and turn it into a murder machine. Yeah, that's pretty much what would happen, right?
Or wait, you know what? I was going to say. Now, car guy here. We got Mike. I'm a car guy. Jake Charles. He does the car thing too. But what if you wanted to pass smog? Right,
Yeah.
trick emissions, right? Plug it into the OBD, and then they throw it on the dyno, right? On the dyno, the smog dyno, and it just tricks the computer, right, to spit out, or it tricks the computer to tell the smog computer, smog's great, right? So that might be one way where you yourself like, let me use this shit real quick,
But what's your thoughts on it being implemented in like performance racing, like to fine tune an engine to get? You think that's something that's possible, or do they have things like that already in place, or what do you think?
Yeah, I would think that's cheating though, right? Because it's not. There's no human management behind it, right? I mean, you're kind of
removing that team of engineers that sit behind the laptops in the paddock. Like when you watch like a race team like Formula One, right? And then they'll have all these dudes sitting behind computers, right? And each one of those computers literally is monitoring one thing on the car. Okay, right. So if we were to bring AI into the picture, you're removing the actual human engineers.
Old young.
Go ahead. Do you think that that's kind of tough, man? Because like in racing, you want that competitive edge, right? So I don't know, man. I know you
to get an edge. Honestly, there's so many ways to get an edge in racing, dude.
Okay.
There's so many ways to get an edge in racing that I think. Okay, and the higher levels. I'm trying to think if I could see a legit application for AI where it could give a distinct advantage. And the only thing I could really think about is maybe conditions, right? Like AI gives you intel on like, look, but see, even then, right? Because they have like Doppler and all that stuff. See, so a race could start in the dry, but they'll know in about 15 minutes, right? There's going to be rain on the track. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm really trying to find an application for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as it's still a human-based sport. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I can see the NFL. I can see the NFL using something like this. Franchises using it in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
how so? Like, what aspect of the game do you think?
Well, for example,
and stuff, or?
Yeah, playbooks into how healthy the players are versus what kind of field what kind of field they're on. Is artificial turf,
Turf,
yeah, turf
Interesting.
based
grass. Yeah.
conditions. What the weather is, what the velocity of the wind is.
Okay, if we're taking multiple data inputs, right?
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
then okay, all right.
yeah. So
I guess
do I
I guess
throw
you
it?
could do that
Do
for
I throw it in
motorsport too. Then
I think motorsports might be a little bit different because you don't have so many players. You have a vehicle, right?
yeah,
In Formula E, this might make a lot more sense than Formula One. But because you want to know the condition of the batteries versus the
hmm
motor output versus the turns, how many turns you're going to use, how much
right.
steering input that needs to be there, things such and such. But
Now I could see it like this, right? So for example, I could see it coming into play,
Mhm.
because anytime cars are behind each other, right? The cars that are behind, the car that's in the front technically is literally the slowest car because if you're behind that car is punching an arrow, it's punching a hole in the air. And if you run behind that car's wake in the draft, you don't see the wind resistance that car sees, right?
Mhm.
So I could see AI calculating what kind of advantage could be gained by driving behind a car, right? That you're drafting behind, because it's the one doing the punching in the air. I could see
Yeah.
these little intricate kind of aspects. I can totally see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just as a car in and of itself, it's four wheels, it's this, it's that, right? And there's all these,
Mhm.
there's the rules that you have to run the car based on, right? So
Mhm.
there's only but so much you can do in terms of like setup and this and that,
Mhm.
right? You could just use AI maybe to optimize, like what Mike was saying. So if if my team is going to be playing at this field, right? How cold is it going to be? What's the surface going to be, right?
Or what
Health
the
of the
players,
players,
the health of the player versus the play itself. How much wind is out there? What's the
wind
velocity?
speed, velocity,
Yeah.
right?
If I
Density.
if I pitch this ball down the field, how many yards can I go before it flops?
Mm.
There's a lot. I mean, they're using AWS cloud computing and Microsoft surfaces now to make plays, right? So they're already
I was gonna
halfway
say
there.
they're already using that, like in basketball, especially.
Yeah, well,
They
I know in football they usually have Surface Pro pads, right? So
Mhm.
that they're downloading new plays and stuff like that on the fly.
like
And
yeah,
Really?
literally,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I
Because
didn't know that.
they download it, and if you ever notice, like quarterbacks when they run back to the huddle, they'll put their
Uh,
hands over their ears
yeah,
because
yeah.
yeah, they're getting the play from the offensive coordinator up in the booth.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then
So it
you take into consideration that the Patriots had got dinged, I think maybe a year or so ago, over like Wi-Fi outage because no one can use their
Mm.
Microsoft Surface, right? And so these are sort of things that happen. You take something like Chat GPT that collects all this data in real time and says, "Give me a play based on you know the quarter and the time that's available and what down it is, and should I run it, should I pass it, what's going to be the run play, is it going to be Omaha, what am I going to be doing here?" So
right.
you don't take the coaching out, you don't take the coaching element out, but you turbocharge the coach
You turbocharge it, yeah.
to make better decisions. And that could take somebody, a team like the Browns, from from a non-playoff contender to an actual contender, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Thanks to Chat GPT.
yeah,
Oh wait,
I
Old
got
Young
my
said
Super Bowl rings.
the micromobility and Chat GPT, is there a use? Like I said, heat map. I was curious about heat map creation. That was my my angle on it.
yeah.
And that,
Outside of that, what's up?
go ahead. I was gonna ask you, when you say heat map, I'm not too familiar on these
Oh,
terms. What does that
so
mean?
a heat map. So basically, what that does is, it's a map that shows me, like a visual map that
Hmm.
shows me like where things have gone, right? See, so like for example, let's just say if we took like a two let's imagine we're looking at Google Maps, and let's say it was my neighborhood, right? And we're gonna
Hmm.
make a 2 mile by 2 mile square, right? And so within that square I drop 20 scooters in there, right?
Okay.
And then what I want to do is I want to see where they go. Okay, so what I do is I aggregate that data. So every day, those 20 scooters go into the same place every day, every day, every day, and then they move, right? And then the next day they go right back to the same place. And then what we want to do is watch them where they move. Okay. After about 15, 20 days, I'll start to see where things go on an average day-to-day basis. Okay. And so if I see that a fair portion are going in one direction, then that part of the map's going to be like red. If there's one direction, one area where I hardly ever see the scooters go, it's going to be like blue, right? And then there might be trips in this direction, trips in that direction. And what it'll do is it'll aggregate that data over time, and it creates what's called a heat map. So what that tells me is what areas are hot, where places where people are going all the time, and where it's not so hot, right? And then what it can also tell me is that, okay, so they go from here and then they go to here, and then from here they come either back here or they go over here, right? Or it'll tell me, there's been a few rides that go past that point. So what you may want to do is start sticking some scooters over in this area, right? So what it actually will tell me where I should be putting things.
So it creates more efficiency in your business, pretty much.
Yes. Yeah, that's we call it a heat map.
Interesting. I like that.
Well, I would also add that you can probably potentially use it for advertisers, depending on where the scooter has traveled along and where it's actually located, and how frequently it passes by certain areas at certain times. We know that school lets out at 3:00 or 2:30, whatever it is. Maybe Subway, maybe McDonald's, maybe Burger King may want to pitch their advertising at that time in that area to that demographic of people.
Yep.
And so it allows ChatGPT would allow, or I shouldn't say ChatGPT, but any AI.
Any AI,
any AI would be able to correlate this data and feed it right back to the advertisers. It goes up to Facebook. Facebook goes to the advertisers. Advertisers come back, and everybody gets compensated in a single cyclical loop. And so,
I'll give you another example, right? So, like, we also have a logistics software where all the micromobility stuff it's integrated into it. So we have another software. This is all app based, right? This is like for restaurants, basically it's logistics, it's delivery. Right. So when Mike and we were talking about the cargo bikes and all that stuff, the reason why I was saying that my partner was sending me pictures of cargo bikes and stuff is because we want to integrate these types of vehicles into our logistics platform. And then that way we could essentially we could be a DHL or let's just say a contractor for them. Right. We can like basically integrate with their stuff, pick up parcels that need to be delivered out. Just like how like Amazon contracts with people to go do the deliveries and stuff. Okay, we did all this because we were trying to bid for these contracts for last mile and all that. Okay, there's an AI algorithm in there in the software that basically it'll sort and route a driver. Okay, so let's just say 10 parcels come in, they all scan in. The software says, okay, we only do five to a driver at a time, right? So if I have 2 drivers and both of them are online, they're both online right now, right? So 10 parcels come in, the software is going to say, okay, look, based on the destination of all 10 of these, I'm going to sort them. I'm going to give him 5 and I'm going to give him 5. Okay. And what they're going to, so let's say, for example, if the 5 that they get, it gives 1, this guy is going to be going north and northeast, right? It's going to be, it takes the addresses, the zip codes and everything, right? And it says, okay, give these 5 to this guy and give these 5 to this guy. And then what it's going to then do is create a route.
Hold on. You said it can do all that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And then it says, okay, go here and drop this one off. Then go here and drop, and it gives it. And what it does is trying to give the most linear delivery like the delivery schedule is possible. So it takes those 5 parcels based on where they go, gives it to this dude, then says in sequence, take this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here, and this one there. Don't go out of sequence, otherwise you're wasting time. And the AI does all the sorting on that. Yeah.
So do you think that's what like business is going now in terms of technology? There's a line being created between who's more efficient and who's not. Is that where things going now?
Dude, it's all about time.
Mm,
It's all about time, like time and efficiency, time and efficiency, time and efficiency, time and efficiency. Like, okay, so the main reason why we got into that is for food delivery, right? And so, look, okay, if we're talking last mile delivery, and let's just say from point of origin from the restaurant to the destination, we're talking about no more than 3 miles out. Okay, on an e-bike, you can get that stuff off faster than you can get it off in a car. I have all the case studies to show it, prove it. Right? That's where using this type of software and these types of AI tools can make an e-bike more efficient and faster at delivering food than a car.
interesting.
Yeah.
Jeez. Times has changed, man. That's interesting. All right, so well, I think that's a good thing because you're creating more revenue stream. More customers are getting served faster, right? So that's
Creating
offers more
efficiency.
cost.
It's efficiency.
Yeah, of
you're
course,
creating,
yeah.
you're creating efficiency, and so
Yeah, it's yep.
in order to increase revenue, you got to increase efficiency. That's
Okay.
the reality. So
Yeah, I was gonna say time and efficiency, man. That's the name of the game.
yeah,
If you can do it quicker, you'll get the business.
Mm,
Basically,
that's good stuff.
yeah. In a nutshell. What's this question right here?
and how can I get in touch with the Bro Star? I don't know. I don't know if that's spoke.
Brother. Oh, okay, that spoke on that. Spoke
Well,
on WEF. Oh, uh, the link right there. Or if you, I don't. I guess I can shoot here. I'll do this. Email.
mhm.
But yeah, that WEF stuff is something. That WEF stuff is something that yeah,
It's good
it's
to
worthy
see.
worthy of a deep dive.
Yeah, it's good to see Idris Elba receiving a reward, an award up there. So
What?
Idris Elba,
He got an award
yeah, he was the opening speaker
at the Davos thing?
yeah.
Really?
Mm,
Interesting. Okay. Hell, there was talk that Mr. Schwab himself wasn't even going to show up, and then he did his speech and then took off. Soros didn't show up. Matter of fact, about 50% of the invitees, the invite people who are invitees, I guess that's the word, didn't show up.
Yeah.
I thought this was an interesting.
It could be COVID. It could be COVID related.
Yeah, they were testing. They were doing like some hardcore like testing of people.
Well, China requires, they require anybody coming from China to have PCR test and showing your vaccine card. So that, anybody who takes a PCR test for traveling knows you need to do that at least 5 days in advance before you can book your flight. So, or at least before you can board a plane. And so I think the World Economic Forum is starting to lose its steam.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's I think the pandemic has changed the dynamic because now people are just meeting up through Zoom. They don't really need to go all the way to Davos for that. And so,
Yeah.
and plus everybody's starting to have their own, especially Black people. You got Afro Tech Summit, you got Afro Tech Week, you got Afro Tech in the United States, you got Tech on the Beach, you got Black Tech Week, you got the HBCU Tech thing going. There's just a lot of areas where people are kind of people are kind of past that stage, and I think that the World Economic Forum missed their window of opportunity due to COVID. They don't really need to talk to those people anymore. Everybody can have their own conversations now, and so that's where we are with this. But it's just one of those things that people see. People have enough information to make their own credible decisions now, where they don't need to go to the World Economic Forum. It's become more of a celebrity thing of who's who.
It's a who's who type of thing, right? Who's there, and it's Gates and this and that, and in all truthfulness, I just think there's so much rapid change taking place, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I think kind of having I guess you could say groups that are forming some level of autonomy in terms of technology, finance, stuff like that. There's all these these technology tools that enable us to do it, whether it's conducting international business through like WhatsApp, for example, using different type of technologies to do like the next level stuff, the 4IR stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think that these large global meetings need to take place in order for like us on the ground to like make things happen.
Because we're having our own conversations, right? And
Right.
we have not been all that wrong on our assessment of what's coming down.
I'm waiting for somebody to point out where we were wrong.
Yeah. And so I think Black people, because we live in such a unique situation in the United States where we're kind of closed out from certain networks, that we have to come up with our own alternatives. And I think the brain trusts and think tanks, for that matter, have propped up based on that situation at hand, that we didn't have access to Davos, so we had to create our own Davos.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, they have Davos, we have the hood, whatever you want to call it. But the thing here is, when they don't allow for that level of expansion in discourse, then people are going to find their own alternatives. And when I've been to the continent more than a few times, and I can tell you that they're having conversations way beyond what Davos is having.
Yeah, what they are. I mean, I'm saying, man, there's different MOs, right?
Yeah.
Africa definitely has its own MO, depending on what region, what area we're talking about. I mean, the continent as a whole, but you already know there's certain regions where, like with the AU, for example, the whole Cardano thing that they made happen in back, was it 2021, when they announced the Cardano initiative, that was it, the ADA token and all that stuff, and that was going to be like the backbone behind the AU currency and all this kind. I mean, dude, like there's hella moves being made, and it literally had required no input from the WEF at all, right? So it just goes to show, man, how, depending on how people are seeing the world, there's a lot to get done. There's a lot to move on.
Yeah. No, it's just that everybody has their own ambitions. And I think Black people's ambitions are to not be so dependent on other people or Western technology, for that matter. Mm-hmm. They try to, be more innovative for themselves. And so they don't really want to be on stage, not because they don't like Europeans, but because they have their own narrative that they want to tell. Everybody wants to tell their own narrative, and the only people who have not been able to tell their narrative have been largely African Americans, or largely Black people, I should say, on a global scale. From a diaspora standpoint, Black people have been left out of the conversation for so long that now that people can write code and people can do their own thing, they largely want to chart their own path. And so Davos, for me, it doesn't really mean all that much as it used to maybe 4 years ago. Right. I think 4 years ago, they were on point with a lot of things that they were saying. I think that they were very poignant in pointing out that, fourth industrialization and black men. I think that article is still true to this day. I do think that there are a considerable amount of black men who will get left behind because they just don't have the skill set in these areas. They just lack the literacy. And you can only cut hair and rap for so long. If you got people trying to use Chat GPT to write code, to write lyrics, that should tell you, what the cadence is.
I'm telling you, man, it's like the low level applications. You're not going to be able to get away with just doing like there's not going to be any street shit that you can really kind of glean from an AI tool, for example, right? However, an AI tool can glean you a lot if you're actually applying it somewhere in terms of like a business or a tech or a certain type of technology, something like that. I mean, hell, we were even over here, ruminating about how could we apply it to how do you use it in football or how you use it in motorsport, right?
We're looking for an application, right?
Yeah.
Because we live in a different situation than everybody else, right? And so maybe somebody like Kevin Hart with his Laugh Out Loud network or whatever it is, maybe he might want to come up with some. Maybe he might want to use Chat GPT to tell jokes because I don't find him funny. But that's there.
Yeah.
But the thing here, imagine that, right? Chat GPT writing black jokes and stuff like that.
I just my God. You know what, dude? You just gave me something to do tonight. You just gave me something to do tonight. I'm gonna write me a black joke.
No, but the thing here is, the conversation is different in 2023 than what it was in 2017. In 2017, in the World Economic Forum, they were dominant in all these conversations. You didn't see any black people up there. For a long time, you didn't see any black people up there. It's only recently that you've really seen black people.
Some, recently.
Yeah, Idris Elba is one. You might see a couple. Akon was another one, but you don't really see common, everyday black civilians.
No, that's not their purview, man.
Yeah, it isn't. But the thing here is they want to be inclusive, but they're not really inclusive. They only want to be inclusive where it matters to them, where it satisfies them. And so that's why, World Economic Forum 3 years ago, very popular. Now it happens today, this week, and no one's really talking about it as they was 2 and 3 years ago. And so that's where the challenge is. And so, and logistics. That's my concentration too. Yeah, I think people who are not in the tech field have to understand that when you're not in tech, you got to take what your background is and then leverage that knowledge into what a tech application would be.
Yeah.
If I'm a truck driver and I'm hauling 80,000 pounds of load full, my background is I move multi-million dollars, millions of dollars of logistics. But how do I simplify that process? Right? Now, let me share my screen real quick because this is actually really good.
Because I'm going to dovetail on your point too, because it's no different than somebody who, let's just say, works in the food services industry, right? Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar. We did a whole whole deep dive on this stuff, like virtual kitchens, like virtual restaurants and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like restaurants that literally just only exist on the app.
That's like the ghost kitchens, right?
Yeah. Like, well, you launch a virtual restaurant and then you use a ghost kitchen to do it. Yeah.
It's next level, man.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, dude, you be a restaurateur. You don't have. It's like the Airbnb of food.
Yeah, we have that here. We have a whole entire old mill factory that was converted over into a dark kitchen.
To a dark kitchen. Yep.
And that's how they supply the food trucks. So you have these different brands of food trucks, but they all dock at the same warehouse because it's a dark kitchen, and all the food gets made in one big assembly line.
I'll show you, Mike. After you do this, I'll show you like a ghost kitchen operation in Austin I've been talking to.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is from TechCrunch. Jetstream, a Ghanaian e-logistics platform for Africa's business-to-business importers and exporters, takes in $13 million in equity. Okay. The market for cross-border logistics services is said to hit revenues of $32 billion by 2025, with several companies vying for market share in the ever-growing competitive industry. Ghanaian e-logistics startup Jetstream Africa is on the list, and today it's announcing that it has secured $13 million in equity in debt pre-Series A financing. Fintech lender and private equity firm Caris and French development institution Proparco, through its bridge fund, provided the debt financing, while the equity investors include Octera, Worry Ventures, Seed9, the MBA Fund, and ASC VC, a venture fund founded by executives of the supply chain visibility platform Project 44. Existing investors, Alethea, IDF, and Golden Palm participated as well. The round is coming about 18 months after Tema-based cross-border logistics platform announced a $3 million seed fund, including $1 million in debt. Jetstream says this new investment will allow it to expand into new countries. It's currently in 12 in Africa, in 29 countries, 12 in Africa, and continue to develop its technology platform, which vertically aggregates fragmented logistics and financing vendors in the world of African trade. At the time of its seed round, Jetstream Africa had two business lines: one providing logistics services to cargo owners dealing with import and export, and another distributing finance to freight forwarders. However, Jetstream has bundled both products over the past couple months to serve only cargo owners. According to the startup's chief executive, Mishi Adi, Jetstream achieved product market fit correspondingly. Quote, running those two lines side by side, we observed that the import or export business controls the supply chain, she said on the pivot. Although the cargo owners and freight forwarders have a lot of information symmetry, the importer and exporter can put pressure on the freight forwarder to digitize the supply chain. We simplify our business into just the import-export product line by working directly with them with a combination of trade, financing, and logistics. So essentially what's happening here is they're able to combine all of these services into a super app. That's what it's basically.
That's insane, bro. That is insane.
You know, anybody who's been to Ghana knows how far behind Africa is in terms of infrastructure and just, you know, just in terms of bureaucracy. And so startups like this, it doesn't surprise me that they come out of left field and they just come in and start dominating. Because they figured out a way to streamline services.
Time and efficiency.
Yep.
Name of the game.
Especially with Project 44, man. Like I've used that platform before to with specific brokers. So no, they're working in conjunction with them. That's huge, man. Like that's massive, because that's one thing I worry about, like Africa, as far as the transportation and logistics of Africa is like so pragmatic. Like you can't really, that's what I'm saying, that's the issue. Like how do you really run a business out there where it's like there's no really real strong connection, like connectivity amongst other towns and the whole system. So that's what I was trying to figure out. And I remember we discussed this a few years ago, and we were saying that that's a huge problem. But now like they kind of figured it out. That's like, and the way they did it was it's brilliant, man. Like that's smart. You know, just have everything in one package and one system. Like, it's gonna, it's going to, remove a lot of obstacles. You know, and create more efficiencies. I like that, man. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, because you know, Africa doesn't have a human capital issue. It just has an access to resources issue. Just like African Americans having access to resources issue. We just don't have access to, you know, billions of dollars, like, you know, Elon Musk or some of these other guys. And so when people say, you know, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, yeah, that sounds great, but show me access to the money.
Yeah, I mean, just put the money in the bank, bro. We'll do it.
Yeah, or put it in my hand. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, this is what you were talking about right here. Yeah. They took that space and converted it. This is what this is. This is a virtual dark kitchen or a ghost kitchen.
Well, that's a ghost kitchen, but what I was referring to was a dark kitchen where there's really no.
Well, there's no none of this right here.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look anything like that. It looks like a
just from the outside, like a warehouse.
It looks just like a warehouse. There is no windows, anything to it. You know.
Yeah.
All it has.
This one has. I'll go to this picture right here. So like each, you know, these are all different establishments, right? I'm throwing that in air quotes because all of these exist on the apps. Now you can go to this place and pick up stuff if you order from the app. You can come in here and pick it up, right? But what these are just like food operations that are housed in one place, right? So it could be like 20, 30, 40 different operators, but all of their food sales and stuff either come vis-a-vis the apps, the food trucks, you know, stuff like that. But it's these types of operations right here that are allowing people to just launch restaurants without actually owning one.
That's the one in Austin?
That's in Austin. Yeah, Austin, Texas.
Huh.
Yeah. So like you could contact them and say like, hey, look, I have a virtual restaurant concept or an idea, and I would like to launch in the Austin market. And they go, okay, well, you know, then they'll start asking you, well, what kind of food is it? What is your menu? This and that. And then you could either go there and actually be in the space yourself to do it, or you could contract with somebody who's already making food and just say, hey, look, here's my packaging and here's my menu. Here's the, you know, give them all the shit or whatever, or they typically would have it. You say, but yeah, here's my menu, here's my packaging. When an order comes in, make it, box it up.
Yeah.
You know how much cost you're cutting by doing that? I know like how much cost, because I know in the restaurant business the bulk of the cost is going to be in the real estate, right? I would imagine. And so it's like you kind of removing your staff and you kind of like outsourcing that. You're removing a lot of costs out of your business. You know, it's gonna, you have a better bottom line.
It depends on what you're serving too, because people go to Starbucks for that experience, right? You really can't automate Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
You walk in there, they want that experience. Same thing with maybe something like I shouldn't say Burger King, but McDonald's. Some McDonald's that I've seen, some of the franchises I've seen, you know, they look like a mall because it's so massive. There are playgrounds outside and stuff like that, and so some things you just can't really automate in that capacity,
right?
But Harold George, I've seen people plugging in their quant scripts they use for trading on the stock market. I don't know enough to see how good the Chat GPT can improve on people's input, but because like all automated systems, all artificial intelligence, I should say, they require a lot of collection of data, and if they don't have enough data input over a stint of time, then what happens here is they can't make an informed decision. So AI can make decisions only based on whatever data it gathers. So I don't know how it would work on the stock market. It would have to look at years and years of data in order to determine what the trajectory would be.
Yeah, see that's where it kind of gets out of my purview there, right? But I think if I said, man, you know, people have been using it for other stuff, get kind of creative with it, I suppose.
But people are misusing it though. You know?
Yeah, well, you know, Mike, you already know that's kind of like what happens when you give somebody something, right?
Yeah.
You know, you give somebody something and then they just get in a candy store with it, I guess, right?
Well, it's kind of like those guys who who have these brodozers, man, and all they, the most off-road they go is like over speed bumps in a mall parking lot. It's like,
Right.
oh, Nelly,
Like you're not, yeah, like dude, total trailer queen. They're not really trying to like get that thing dirty.
Yeah, yeah, and so a pickup truck is supposed to serve a purpose, man. It's not for like, it's not a high performance, sort of vehicle that you use to lift up, 12, 36 inches off the ground and then be completely confused when you tip over around the turn. So,
Right.
That's funny.
Gee, I
no,
wonder why that happened.
no, I can see Chat GPT being used for, fuel efficiency, saving money on the next fill up. Where
Yeah.
is it? Where is the next fill up at? How much fuel is in my tank based on the OBD2 port diagnostics that gets recorded, and how far can I go on this tank, and based on the usage that I have with my vehicle.
You know what I would do, man. Now I'm getting my little gears going in my head. So like, not all fuel is the same, right?
Mixture.
Right. Not all fuel is the same. Some fuel burns more efficiently than others. Some batches of fuel is garbage, dude. It's trash. So I would ask that based on every time I fill up, right? Have it do like a sniff analysis of the gas I just put in here, right? Because that would be interesting data to give back. It tells you, oh, for this tank you're gonna get 300 and however many miles, right? 300 and 68 miles on this tank, and you're like, shit. Typically I'm getting like around 390.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I think that's probably one way where you could actually utilize it in this sort of like real time analysis, have an AI do real time analysis on the gas consumption, and and basically your primer is like, well, I got this gas from this gas station this time, right? You could look, what you could actually do that, and if it literally did give you a bit of a table, you can literally go back to like the gas station operators and be like, hey, look, let me show you a little report I just ran here off, the gas I've been putting in my car from your establishment here. It's shit, and you might want to just think about getting better quality fuel. You may be able to ascertain that data and like let them know, like, hey, dude, look.
Or if I'm in Africa and I'm trying to protect wildlife, I kind of want to know where these endangered species are roaming around about, and how many poachers may be potentially in the area. How do I track and map, rhinos and elephants for their tusk and things like that? How do I protect them? These are sort of things that can be leveraged for social impact. That's where Chat GPT should be used.
That's okay. Yeah.
Not for these other nefarious purposes. Where's the common good in leveraging Chat GPT? Because
the first thing people are gonna do, man, like I said, they're gonna ask like some very stupid stuff, or just stuff that how do I basically how do I game something? How do I rig something? How do I get away with something? You know what I mean?
Well, then it becomes a part of open AI. They could be held liable for some things if it's doing things that it should not be doing. Because when Toyota had the accelerator issue, they got sued for lots of money. And a lot of people were crashing their vehicles because there was a malfunction in the accelerator.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would be very careful if I'm open AI. And if I'm Microsoft, put my money into it. Do I want to be on the hook for something like that? I don't know.
Right.
Okay. Let's discuss this now. What's the most productive thing you can use this for, right? So let's say in terms of politics, like let's say writing a bill or an initiative or whatnot. You think that's possible to do that if you want to leverage it in politics?
Writing a bill?
Not writing a bill, but like a bill proposal, certain things like that, like
yeah.
Like so let's say in government, can you do that?
It might be a little bit more complicated because it depends on, when you write bills,
It's very specific.
yeah, it has to be very specific, and so it has to be trained on that data. If it's not trained on the data, it's going to have a lot more errors in it. And in government, you don't want errors, right? Because then your bill just doesn't get any support.
It doesn't get passed, or they send it
because
back.
when they read it, it's going to look like, well, what the hell is this?
Like, did AI write this?
Yeah, right. We do that when we see the articles, right? We'll look at the article like, why
yeah, like TechCrunch. Like you read this, like I said, man, TechCrunch is for a while. I've been like, who's writing this?
Yeah.
Well, I know in the articles they say that this was written by AI or whatnot. They put that in the articles sometimes.
Yeah, because in some instances they can get away with it, but in government you can't really get away with things like that. Somebody has to, you have staff workers for that very reason that help you write these bills. That's just kind of their job.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can look at it more in the sense of like actual. Let's just say, let's bring it to YouTube, right? Content creation, right?
Okay.
You have like those explainer videos or videos where you'll have like a bot talking,
Mm-hmm.
but that was like somebody who like typed some stuff and then put it into like this application where then the voice reads it back, right? Pardon me. And then the voice reads it back, and then they'll add graphics and stuff like that. And it's kind of like just an AI produced piece of, well, it's not AI produced, right? It was created with AI, but then you can produce it. So you can say, hey, I need you to or you type in something about like whatever just happened, right? You just had the Cowboys just beat the Bucks or something, right? And you're gonna do a sports clip or whatever, right? Hey, can you summarize the Tampa Bay Bucks Dallas Cowboys game, right? Boom, spit you out a summary. You put it into the thing. It reads it out as a voice, and then you add your little images or graphics, right? Boom, you got your piece of content, and it's largely AI generated.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's what Sports Center is for, right?
Yeah.
You don't really want to see. There's certain things that should be automated, but there's other things that don't need to be automated.
Right.
For value's sake. What's a value add and what's not a value. What's a value subtract at that point? When you think about tracking pollution, in predominantly Black areas to determine what the outcome from a public health standpoint, what the outcome is from a respiratory standpoint.
Right. I was gonna say you have a higher propensity for kids to have asthma in this area, or there's more kids in this area that get diagnosed with asthma. Why is that?
Yeah.
So pretty much it should be utilized to like access data and pretty much interpret data to a certain degree.
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's what AI should be used for. When we're talking about ChatGPT, people are using it for like all of these sort of other things that don't really have a value add to society. And we live in a society that's based on social contracts and things a social contract, right? We have the responsibility of not creating harm and things of that nature, right? We don't want to. If I'm going to use ChatGPT, I want to see how many, Black children are impacted by, who are impacted by respiratory issues and how those respiratory issues impact their neurological functions, right? How do they function in school? Well, they can't read or they have difficulty learning. But why do they have difficulty learning? That's the whole public health aspect, right? You're trying to figure out the whys as to why something is happening and how do you remediate it.
So it's more like creating. You can use that now. Back to the politics pieces. Like you think you use that as far as creating policies, then that's possible. And like pretty much create better policies.
I think the policy aspect is derived based on the data.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think the policy itself has to be handwritten or typed or whatever. Like
it's very specific because you're writing within the law itself, right? You don't want to write something that goes outside of the law, outside the boundaries of.
But the data that you put in it,
yeah,
right? Like the how you crafted all this could have came from information gleaned using AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing here is, if we're going to get to the point where we're like, how do I leverage AI, to make me cereal? I don't know, man.
I mean, Jesus.
How do I leverage AI to scratch my back?
Yeah, that sort of thing, man. It makes humans lazy. And now
I get it.
Right, and there's a lot of kids who can't write in cursive because they type so much. They don't necessarily need to write in cursive because
hell, Mike, honestly, dude, you got kids who can't even really hardly type even because they text all the time using thumbs.
Yeah, a chick texts me OV to say of, and I'm like, why not just say OF?
Wait, huh? What?
Yeah,
OV to say of.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
That's deep.
Yeah, that's where we at, man. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't want to. If we're going to use AI, let's use AI for something that's scalable, not for something that doesn't have, that has very low value return on investment. Some things can be automated, some things just can't be automated. Picking up a scooter, it'll be nice if a scooter can just right side itself and then park itself into a docking station and charge itself. That would be great, but it just can't do that. We're nowhere near that, and so we have to have somebody physically go out there on the street to Paris or the streets of LA and go pick these things up.
Mike, I told you, dude, that drone you sent me, that drone. Now I'd use that drone. I'd use AI, right, just to patch into my little fleet app, right? Anything that's that I put into, let's just say, park status or something, right? Send that drone out, go pick everything up that has that demarcation on it.
Yeah.
Now
that makes sense. That makes sense.
I want to use a drone for that shit.
No, that makes sense, especially from a delivery standpoint. If I need to drop off same day packages to a location, that makes a lot of sense. But when you start thinking about the size of that drone,
that was a big ass drone.
Yeah, I've seen those.
How big was it?
Oh, it was about the size of
it like literally picked. The dude was hanging. He was holding on to these the bars on the bottom of it. And that thing just pulled him right up into the air.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've seen.
I'm thinking drones because I've seen drones like policing drones, like I've seen on Palm Beach Island, and like off the beach. I've seen it's like a small drone, but I didn't know they had drones that big. Like I thought it was more like military use.
No, man, those are they got civilian use.
The civilian drone is just big as shit.
Yeah, the African drone, the African Drone Expo. I think I showed that a few years ago, but they have drones that can fly in platoons, what they call platoons, and they can basically carry multiple packages in a series. And so just like a freight train would carry multiple box cars, you have drones that can work in a series just like that. So like
when you say carry a package, like how heavy? What are we talking about? Like how heavy?
Oh, that guy in the video had to be.
The guy in the video was probably like 170 pounds, 180 pounds.
Yeah,
maybe a little more. I don't know.
Was it struggling while it was going up, or it just went up easy? Like,
no, dude, like literally, dude. Like if homeboy that was controlling that drone was like, if he really would have effed around, he could have just like zipped homeboy up. That's how like.
What?
Yeah. No, dude, this is a massive. It was a big ballsy drone, dude.
I know.
I've seen that in Africa. I've seen that in Africa, and I reported on that when I came back, and I said, "Listen, they have drones that are massive. They're like the size of a car hood.
Yeah,
and so they can actually lift. The one that I saw can lift 80 kilos. 80 kilos, and not just one, but they work in a series.
Right. So you got like 4 of them working in tandem. Both of them got 80 kilo packages on them.
Yeah. And so you're talking about places that don't have roads. And so you're trying to figure out how do I get from point A to point B in a critical in a just-in-time JIT perspective, right? And if we're talking about delivering medicines and blood and plasma and things like that, that's where drone come in handy, and that's where AI needs to come in handy, because you need to be in the right area at the right time, to deliver parcels and stuff like that. And so that's what I'm saying. That's where AI makes sense.
That's where it makes sense.
Yeah, that's where it makes sense. Now, guys, using AI to talk about like the gynocracy and the matriarchy, I don't see the value in that. I don't see the value.
You know what, dude? That's another thing. I'm probably gonna sit up here and do some stupid shit on Chat GPT tonight. I want to just ask him, like, I don't know, red pill. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm not gonna waste my time doing that. Never mind. Nope. I'm not gonna do it.
All right, I know you've been there for a while, but one more question. I saw an article regarding a 6G, right? And it said that they're able to use the energy from your body, right? Like it's your electromagnetic grid, and it's your energy, right, to charge devices on 6G. Okay, I know we're getting into 5G right now, but what are the applications for 6G? Like, I haven't really looked into it yet. Like, you guys know anything about 6G yet, or?
It's too early.
I was gonna say, when we covered it, and when they talked about the Chinese, they launched. What was that, back in 2020, Mike? The Chinese launched a 6G satellite.
No, well, they launched a 5G satellite that can process Bitcoin, right? They were mining Bitcoin or something like that, and with a satellite. But 6G, they're still writing the what do you call it? The architectural framework for it.
So it's the early stages right now.
Yeah, you won't see that for 10 years. You won't see that.
Oh, okay.
Usually that's a life cycle of generational networks, right?
Yeah.
3G came out. Yeah. 4G came out with the iPhone, and then 5G came out, about a year and a half ago. And so you're talking about every 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. So it evolves every like 7 to 10 years, pretty much.
Yeah. Right. So you're talking every 7 to 10 years window.
If we were to project that far into the future, maybe some of the things that you were asking, there's a distinct possibility when you timeline it out, when we're projected to see a 6G rollout, right? Mm-hmm. What are going to be these features that they're going to tell us that 6G will have the capabilities for? I would imagine that could potentially be some of the capabilities. I think also off-world communication. Yeah, I think that might be something. Like I think there's a bunch. There'll be like different capabilities in it. But the one, I don't know, for 6G, for whatever reason, man, some of that sticks out in my mind is space.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have interconnected satellites that can communicate with each other over 6G. That's one of the applications. So cyber connected systems, that's just basically what they're talking about here. So
yeah.
So I'm sure they're gonna be using that for I know they're talking about a mission to Mars. I would think that you need that type of technology for that, right? That type of network for that.
Well, that's a bit of a distance. I mean, right now they use radio telescopes for that.
Yeah, I do think if you were to combine Starlink, Neuralink, and Elon's his penchant for wanting to go to Mars. Now, I think that he has, between his multitude of companies within his holdings or what have you, I mean, he kind of has it all sort of self-contained there.
Yeah.
Right. So that it's not necessarily 6G, but he's got satellite-based communications already.
Yeah, those are more of a network of satellites that provide global connectivity.
Yes.
From the ground.
Right.
So now you're traversing cell phone towers. You're going beyond that now. You're skipping the cell phone tower and go directly to the device itself, to the endpoint itself.
And that's why he's talking about coming out with that. Was it the Pi phone or something like that? Whatever it's called. I forgot what phone that basically just connects right to the satellites.
Is that faster?
No, it's not necessarily faster, but it still provides connectivity, right? I mean, it's sufficient enough. It's no different than if you were on an airplane. That would be like the speed of the connectivity, mostly because of the time and the distance. Yeah, going up is fast, but coming down is going to be a little bit slower. Because of the relay, the time difference in relay. So, well, we're a long ways from that, but I do think that AI as a technology is something that you use to bolt on to advance your basic application. Anything that has remedial processes in it, things such as opening up an email, reading it back to you. These are things where AI comes in handy. Using AI to try to run game or something like that on a female. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's no real value behind using game or using AI to try to run game.
Yeah, very 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 like base human stuff, dude. Like there's not really much application in it. I think it's there for bigger problems or bigger things. Yeah.
I mean, because if you're on Bumble or something like that and you're trying to figure out a way to introduce yourself to a female, I mean, I just think that maybe you should like find a hobby or something.
Yeah.
Find a hobby.
You know what, dude? That's probably what. If the AI had a sense of humor, that would be its response. Get a hobby.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Like, I know this AI didn't just try me, man.
Like, dude, like really? And then the AI is like, "I'm AI. Are you gonna question me? Get a hobby.
Get a life."
Yeah.
No. AI in the supply chain industry is definitely going to be a game changer. I think that the ability to determine,
the sorting and routing, man.
Just sorting and routing, but also whether or not there's a bad batch of apples or oranges or other sort of produce that may be out there that needs a recall, or what the best cannabis production is going to be based on the strain that's currently being then tested, or what can be projected over a series of time.
Well, dude, that's engineering cannabis' wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And he and I used to, like early on, man, he used to be like, I can write an AI algorithm, right, that can produce consistency in the plants. And I was just like, dude, it's a thing of nature, man. How I'm being a hippie. How can you do that? And when he really broke the shit down, I was like, you know what? You actually probably could, because it's already being utilized, especially in a lot of commercial indoor growing grow houses. And I'm talking about for like things like flowers, leafy greens, all that kind of stuff. Dude, there's like so many sensors and stuff in those buildings.
Yep.
Right, that are feeding data into a computer, and then it's monitoring all these temperature, the amount of air, how the airflow in the place, right? Temperature, nutrient, the what they call the ppm count, right, on the nutrients and stuff like that, right? Your nitrogen and your potassium and phosphorus ratios, making sure they're consistent, right? All that stuff, man. Like there's systems that manage all that shit. You just have a person walking around with a tablet, right?
Or maybe not even a person. You may have an AI bot with
Or a bot.
With a high definition camera that scans up and down.
There you go. We just remove the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts?
No, man. I think this was a good one, Mike. And we'll just come back for the next one.
Absolutely. J. Charles.
Oh, is he muted?
I think he's driving.
Oh, okay. Wait, I think this is Mike. Yo, J. Charles. Okay. Yeah, he might have like the phone down or something.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on your way out and share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust.
Peace.